Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Richard here, the creator of the Top Hat Gaming Man, welcoming you to a rare edition of Big Daddy Top Hat Live. Welcome to the stream. We're going to have a nice evening of just chatting. And if you're reading the title in the description, it is fully correct. It's over. It's all completely over. It's over. And when I say over, I mean the wait for my next live stream, because we're here right now to discuss everything that has transpired on my channel and across the rest of the world and within the gaming world over the last couple of months since the last time I was live. So hello to Jay Green and John Williams. How are you both doing, good sirs? What is under the hat? Very, very good question, Mr. Composer. People often accuse me of being very, very, very bored. Very bored indeed. So they assume I wear the top hat simply because I am trying to hide something. But I can assure you, I have absolutely nothing to hide. And underneath, I in fact have this luscious full head of hair. Yes, hardly any greys, and yes, no bald patches at all. Yes, I have much better hair health than John Cena, for example. And you can't really see his hair, it's invisible. Who else have we got? Benjamin Amory says, Mr. Top Hat, finally I get a chance to meet you. It's a pleasure, sir. Pleasure to meet you too, Mr. Amory, or Amori. Not quite sure I'm saying it right, but hello. And we've got Leonardo, the Italian Giga Chad. You gotta love a good Giga Chad. I had almost had an heart attack, brah. It's good to see you as my fellow Giga Chad. Nice to meet you. Humongous to hide his massive brain. Yes, there is that as well. A small, little bit of an issue. It is luscious indeed. Roberto Santana and Agnes Jovet says, I was going to say you're not a bald guy. No, I'm not a bald guy at all, no matter how many accusations I get. Roberto says, do you still wrestle? Yes and no. That would be my answer to that question. I'm not a semi-full-time weekend warrior indie wrestler. When I was younger, especially at the times during the kids' school holidays when there was like a crazy amount of British wrestling shows, there still are a crazy amount of British wrestling shows, I would wrestle up and down the country a good 100 times every year. But these days, just once or twice a year. I'm about as active as, I don't know, who's not particularly active these days? I would have said Goldberg in the past, or The Undertaker, but they don't tend to wrestle at all anymore, do they? I'm as active as someone who wrestles once or twice a year, just for a little bit of fun, basically. John Williams, thank you kindly for your $2 who says, what is your opinion on the King of Fighters Ash saga? Unfortunately, John, whilst I appreciate your question, I don't have much of a strong opinion on that one way or the other. But thanks to your kind donation, feel free to throw me another question, and I 100% will try my best to answer it. And if I can't answer that one, I'll then answer the next question. But yeah, so my opinion is I don't have an opinion to that one. But yeah, throw me another question. I'm going to do better than that. Michael Bewley says he wears the hat because what? Call himself. Yes, indeed, it is part of my name now. But it never was. I was the wrestling politician, Richard Parliament, who wore a top hat. And when I started making YouTube gaming videos, for some reason, I decided to call myself Top Hat Gamer Man. I think it's because I wanted to be called the Top Hat Gamer, or call my channel Top Hat Gaming, or something like that. Because I thought that sounds like a good brand. But then after a Google search, there was already like 10 Top Hat Gamings. People have tried it in the past and not got anywhere with it. So I thought I've just got to change it slightly. So I'll be the Top Hat Gaming Man. So it was as trivial as that. Oh, Jay Green, thank you kindly for your $5 Canadian dollars. Yes, an excellent currency. Even though they are ugly to look at, because you've got to look at Prince Charles's ugly mug on your notes, just as I have the unfortunate unfortunate need to do as well. Every time I spend money as well. Her mother, she was a lot better looking, wasn't she? God knows what happened. Too much inbreeding, perhaps. Oh, and John Williams with another $5. Thank you, between you, for reminding me how much I absolutely love money. The top hat kind of gives it away, but by the amount of excitement you are generating in my heart right now, I will answer whatever you're asking me now. It says, what is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? Let's find out. Let me find out for you. Again, not something I know off the top of my head, but we have magic tools these days to help with these sort of questions. What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? Is it a Euro song or African? I am so terrible with music. I've basically got a musical anhedonia. So the reward, because I'm so weird, the reward receptors in my brain do not respond to music in the same way other people's do. So when I hear a rhythm, I might attach some nostalgia to that rhythm, but I won't get emotionally invested in the rhythm itself, if that makes any sense. So my musical knowledge is shite. So I've asked ChatGPT for help with this one because I didn't even know what you were talking about. It's a classic question. Are we talking about African or European swallow? As per the Legend Exchange in Monty Python, The Holy Grail. Oh, it's a Monty Python reference. Of course, bloody of course. The average airspeed velocity of an unladen European swallow is often humorously cited as around 24 miles per hour or roughly 11 meters per second. Of course, this is all part of a running gag rather than serious ornithological data. But for those curious, ornithologists estimate that swallows, specifically Hirundo rustica, the barn swallow, generally cruise at around 20 to 25 miles per hour when flying. Would you like me to quote the rest of the scene? I think that will do, Mr. GPT, but thank you very much. Funnily enough, I love Monty Python, The Holy Grail, and Life of Brian, but I don't remember that scene. I do remember Biggus Dickus. I remember that bit. What else do I remember? Yeah, wait till Biggus Dickus hears about that. And there was that, yes, my mind is hazy. I've not seen any of it in about 20 years, but I used to love all the Python stuff. Roberto Santana said you should get a monocle. I used to have a monocle, strangely, but when I was wrestling regularly, but I would always end up losing them, like every match. So I would buy these monocles and consistently lose them. The last time I wore a monocle, I was in a match with Noam Dar, and he attacked me, and then afterwards I lost the monocle, and I thought, no more monocles, they're too small, easy to lose. Yeah, they don't really work very well with the wrestling. Is that African swallow or a European swallow? You just banging a coconut together. I remember that bit. What next? Street Fighter Alpha 4 or Street Fighter 4 Remix? That's a good question. I think we'd more likely get a Street Fighter 4 Remix or some sort of collection. And oh my God! Remember what I said about absolutely loving money? Well, that's completely true. And G Knight has just made my night by donating $20 freaking and becoming the #1 donator of the night with a simple yeah. And that does indeed make me scream yeah. So thank you kindly for that. You're all very generous people. Thank you. You're making me very entertained. Robert Santana says, haha, get out, Noam Dar. Yes, I've wrestled loads of people who are in the big leagues now. Unfortunately, I'm here on YouTube. But, yes, I didn't put the effort in I perhaps should have. I've said the stories about wrestling loads of times on here before, so I won't bore people unless they want more specifics. Matthew King Alexander says, hello from Auckland, New Zealand. And 5 days ago, I found your YouTube channel, and it was the Wario Land 3, Super Mario Land 3 game. Awesome video. Wow, Matthew King Alexander. Funnily enough, I do remember you, I believe it was you, left a comment on that one. See, I do remember what people say. I think you left a comment. And the reason why I remember that in particular is because it's such an old video. I think I shot that one in 2016. So 9 years ago, some of my very early work on the platform. So I was really surprised that someone had found such an old video. But yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed that one, Matthew King Alexander. That was when I was shooting handhelds around for World. Those were the good old days. And TCG Dude says, incoming monocle tattoo. No more losing it. That's not a bad idea. Although if I had any tattoos, that would kind of ruin my gentleman persona. Oh my God! And John Williams has just given another $1.99 and said, you missed Jay Green Super Chat. Did I really miss Jay Green Super Chat? Let me go back, because I don't see... I've missed the Super Chat. I'm sorry, Jay Green. That was very rude of me. I did not see that. Says Top Hat, did you get a chance to try out Battle Zone Gold Edition? No, we have not, but we have every intention to. Out of those lot of games, what Lady Decade bought the other night from Instant Gaming. In fact, speaking of Instant Gaming, if any of you want to go to my links, you can get huge discounts on a range of different AAA, modern, retro, and indie titles. And literally every single purchase, I get a nice little kickback. And it will please my rolling sponsor immensely. So therefore, I will continue to have sponsorship for the channel. So if you want any games for dirt cheap, they've got pretty much everything on there under the sun. I recommend my Instant Gaming links. With regards to Battlezone Gold, no, we've not tried that yet. The one I did play from that lot was, I can't even remember what it's called now. The game, it's a Paper Mario-esque game, inspired by Paper Mario, but you play as insects instead. It's an indie game inspired by Paper Mario. And the gameplay and graphics they really are just like Paper Mario. But I'm not sure if I'm going to continue playing it, because it felt so close to Paper Mario in every aspect except for the humor. I felt like the humor just didn't match it, and not having that same humor didn't result in the same level of charm for me necessarily. So I might knock that one on the head and try something else next. But maybe I'll give Battlezone Gold Edition a go in bed tonight on our Steam Deck. Who are we up to? And thank you, John Williams, for your $1.99 donation, just to say I missed Jay Green Super Chat. Thank you very much. And says, did you run into Rockstar Spud? I wasn't sure if it was him or Grado. I have worked shows with both of those people on multiple occasions, including TNA British Boot Camp Season 2, where I met Rockstar Spud, and a lovely, lovely man. I love James. Great person. He has been so nice and helpful to me over the years. The boot camp thing was the first thing I met him on, and believe it or not, he was the one who picked my CV when he was going through them on the emails, and got me on the show in the first place. And after the show, he stayed in contact with me just off his own back and continued to help me out. After that, he got me booked for a promotion called Future Pro Wrestling, who I had a match for quite recently, actually, for Halloween back in October. But we had a match against each other 10 years ago when he was still X Division champion. And he also put me in touch with an amazing man called Barry Shamalambus, who acted like a somewhat of a mentor for me. He mentored Rockstar Spud. I believe he came up with the Rockstar Spud gimmick itself, and he has helped a number of individuals he's also mentored make it to the WWE, such as I'm not sure what they're called these days. What are the two Essex boys tag team called? I can only think of their real names. Lewis Howley and Sammy Smooth. I think they're called Pretty Deadly in WWE, but that might be their indie name. I can't remember. But he helped out whoever's Lewis Howley's ring name now, a hell of a lot. Along with so many other British workers in the WWE. And thank you again, John Williams, for your kind donation. You lot are continuing to tantalise me tonight. He says, not to get too political, but I really want to hear Scott Steiner's opinion on Canada becoming the 51st state, considering he hates Canada, calling it Mexico North. Well, I've heard something like that as well. Snow Mexico, that's what I often refer to Canada as. But I mean, I call it that in an endearing way, not in a negative way. Yeah, Snow Mexico. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? It was pointed out in one of that. Remember that crazy interview a couple of weeks? It wasn't an interview. That like crazy clash in the White House between Donald Trump and Vance, where they belittled what's his face, Zelensky. There was a journalist who... No, it wasn't that day. It wasn't that day at all. It was the day that Keir Starmer went to meet Donald Trump. There was a journalist, I think a British journalist, who actually asked Keir Starmer when he was in front of Donald Trump what he thought of Donald Trump saying he wants to make Canada the 51st state when it's a sovereign member of the Commonwealth under King Charles. And Keir Starmer just refused to answer the question and basically wrote it off as problematic. But yeah, neither of them would address that. Made me laugh. Willow Rock says, is British wrestling more catch can? It certainly was. In my era, because I'm close to 40 years old now, I started wrestling in 2006. And my main run was between 2006 and 2016. And back then, yes, it certainly was a very catch can European style. I wrestled matches where a big chunks of them wasn't planned whatsoever. They was completely on the fly. Like, I don't know if any of you are familiar with a lad known as Zach Knight. He's part of the Knight family. He is Saraya Knight, or Paige as she was known as, WWE's sister. He wrestles with that style very much so. And we had a few matches, including a cage match, actually, where we went out there because he's excellent. Like, he lives and breathes wrestling his whole life. And yeah, again, it was just all catch as catch can all the way through. Lots of chain wrestling, lots of holds. I was trained to study lots and lots of World of Sport Wrestling, what was broadcast on ITV back in the day. So lots of people like Johnny Sane, Mick McManus, Steve Gray, Mal Sanders. Those are people I used to study tapes of. So definitely, but it's certainly all changed now. Like, sadly, I've been on the British circuit and a lot of British workers don't implement chain into their repertoire at all, which makes me very sad indeed, because that's what British wrestling always was. Like, closed fists aren't wrestling. If you're punching someone, that's a fucking boxing match, isn't it? So why the fuck are now wrestlers punching each other in matches? That should be an instant disqualification. And again, if you ascend the top rope as well, should be a count going on 1, 2, 3, because you're out of bounds the moment you're on the top rope. And if you're doing flips now, that's technically like gymnastics. So I understand that it's all entertainment and that, but it's far removed from British wrestling. And what's really funny, I'd say the main guy who's had the most influence of moving it away from catch as catch can towards the more indie style has got to be William Ospreay, who's now in AEW. And he's been all over Japan, been NJPW heavyweight champion, all that. What's really hilarious, he had his first ever match in front of a crowd of about 200 people in a professional wrestling ring in my parents' back garden years ago. How long? 2008? Yeah, that is a bloody long time ago, isn't it? So yeah, he had his first few matches with us lot. I've wrestled him in my back garden as well multiple times. Good old Will, lovely young lad. He's not so young anymore, but I mean that he's in his 30s, well into his 30s now. But yeah, Will basically changed everything, which is crazy. If you want to go really far back, speaking of Will Ospreay, when I first met him, he could already do, despite him being 14 years old, he could already do a lot of the flippy shit, what you see him doing today. But what was crazy, he couldn't do chain wrestling at all. Like, he couldn't even do a wrist lock when we met him. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if I was one of the first people to ever put him in a proper, like, professional wrist lock, because he hadn't used them before. He hadn't been in the professional wrestling space much by that point. These days, he can do all sorts of catch can. But I remember the general consensus was, when people were talking to him at the time, because he was very young, was that, look, mate, you can't be doing all of these flips and have that as a wrestling career, because when it comes to flips, there will always be someone who is better than you. Well, he certainly proved all of those people wrong, didn't he? He's become like the most athletic professional wrestler in history. He's essentially, if we're talking in terms of athleticism, the Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi of professional wrestling. And he had his first match in my parents' garden, which, yeah, crazy tale, what come to think of it. Yeah. Mental. Zach Potato. Yes, Lady Decade. Yeah, Zach Knight now is running a jacket potato stand in Norwich Town Centre. So if you fancy a good jacket potato, that's where you get one. You can get one directly from Zach, I believe, who's just finished his AEW run. That's what I read in the local Gazette. Anyway, because I live in Norfolk too now. So I've missed loads talking about wrestling. Agnes says, what's your take on Tom Aspinall going for UFC heavyweight championship? I do not follow UFC, sadly, so I can't answer that question, I'm afraid. Johnny Garcia, I retired in 2017. My run was from 2004 to 2017. Very nice. What country were you in, Johnny Garcia? Willow Rocks says 2008 seems like yesterday. It really does seem like yesterday. It's so sad. How quick life has gone by. Paul Nat 360. Are you okay? Yes, I am indeed okay. In fact, I am, what would be the word? Feeling amazing. Thanks to all of you joining me tonight for this stream. So thank you for your presence, everyone. Izzy Man says, I came here for the Street Fighter news. I'm staying for the wrestling news. Funnily enough, Izzy Man, I have a wrestling related gaming YouTube video coming to the channel this Sunday. So it's not mere rambling. It does relate directly to what will be coming on Sunday. I'm not going to give many spoilers because it is a rather unique one, in my opinions, which I believe most of you should be very entertained by because it truly is a ridiculous emerging story. Mick and Aya says, do you know any wrestlers that modelled their gimmick off of Jimmy Savile for cheap heat? No, but I don't. Mick and Ayers, what country are you from? I don't know if you're familiar with this already, but you didn't need, if you was a wrestler, you didn't need to model your gimmick off of Jimmy Savile for cheap heat because Jimmy Savile was already a freaking wrestler. Back in, I think it was the 70s, he was wrestling on ITV as himself. So Jimmy Savile is potentially the most evil wrestler of all time, even topping Chris Benoit. Lillian Hughes says, hi lady, are you still here? She might be indeed, but I'm not sure. Well, also in the long run, when you hit 40, is meant to be 40? Yeah, you might not flip like you used to. Absolutely. Although Rey Mysterio is still doing a good job of jumping around, jumping all over the place. But then again, he doesn't bump much. The reason why luchas can get quite old and hold their athleticism, because if you look very closely, where most wrestlers are constantly being slammed on their back, they tend to do a lot more rolls in their style than actually take impact. John Williams, Triple H sleeps free in Will Ospreay's head. Yeah, and vice versa, a little bit, to be fair, from what I've seen of the back and forths. Ospreay is a man who I believe is very open about having ADHD. And if you've got ADHD, which is an attention deficit disorder, you tend to have hyper focuses and almost an element of oppositional defiant disorder, often ingrained into the way you live. And for many people with ADHD, there's nothing worse than someone telling you how you should and shouldn't be living your life. So knowing Will as a youngster, I should imagine, oh, John Williams with another $5. Thank you so much. I will read your kind chat message in a moment. But for now, let me bitch about Triple H for a little bit because I don't actually appreciate some of the stuff I've heard him say about Will in the past. I've heard him allude to basically saying, oh, if people don't want to come here and be in the main event and work really hard, then they're basically, there's no point in those people existing, which is absolute balderdash. I really respect him for the way he has chosen to live his life and go to AEW instead of WWE because he just is the most naturally athletically gifted talent on the planet. So he can essentially dictate a wage and dictate where he chooses to work. By being in AEW instead of WWE, he doesn't have to live the unfortunate and, in my opinion, terrible life of living on the road like a carny 24/7 like WWE talent do. Like, that would be horrible, wouldn't it? Like, literally, like, sitting around in a car, going from state to state, only seeing your family a couple of times a year. But because he's in AEW instead, he gets to be in the main event, huge arenas like Wembley Stadium. And on top of that, he also gets to spend time with his family in his house here in the UK. He would not have the opportunity to have his cake and eat it if he was a WWE talent. If you work for that company, like many American companies, they want your soul. They want your whole life to revolve around what they do. And personally, I think he's spot on. I wouldn't want anyone controlling my life to the extent of WWE higher-ups control their talent. I would not want that for myself. Lefty Conti Groom just subscribed. Although I'm saying that, they probably didn't even hear that because they probably subscribed from watching one of my long-form videos. But yeah, we've talked a lot about wrestling tonight. I apologise if that's boring any of you. And I will go to John Williams, super chat now. Thank you so kindly, by the way. You've given a lot of donations tonight. I really, really appreciate that. Says Rey Mysterio can move us freely because he's a deadbeat dad. That is the gimmick, isn't it? What they say. Yes, that is true. Yeah, he's also very small, isn't he? And aerodynamic, I guess. That's got to help. Matthew King Alexander says, I have ADHD. I'm not going to lie, Matthew King Alexander. The more I've looked into it, the more I've come to realise that in reality, I likely have it as well. I'm 8 years older than Will, so it's not likely to have gone noticed in the same way it did for him. Also, I was always very academically, well, not very academically able at school, academically able enough to not have any red flags ever raised with regards to my English abilities, my maths abilities, reading, or anything like that. But I did suffer from quite a lot of anxiety all the way through school, and that was due to the fact that I hated the fact that I had to do what I was told permanently all the time. So, and always being told off for not concentrating. Like the teacher would be spouting boring nonsense because they had not a charismatic bone in their body. Yeah, they would have the audacity to then moan at me because they were too bad at their job to engage me. Literally, some teachers are twats, aren't they? Let's be clear about that. But yeah, now I know why they potentially had trouble engaging my attention, and so many of you probably watching as well, because if you're watching something niche like this, it's likely that you might have some bizarre hyperfocuses too. TKO company is ruthless indeed. I don't know why anyone wants to work for these sort of companies. Like, this is why I love being self-employed, because no one, and I mean no one, can dictate what I do. It's a nightmare. Like, freedom is absolutely everything to me. Like, what cost do you give your freedom away to a corporation just for a bit of money? It's absurd to me. In my opinion, this is a man says, WWF is so vanilla, watered down wrestling. The moves are so basic, to be honest. The finishes used to be epic. Now it's run, punch, a knee or some kind. AEW, in my opinion, is a better product. I'll be honest, I do not watch enough of the wrestling in either of those promotions these days to form that much of a solid opinion. I do like good old-fashioned storytelling, if I'm honest. Like, I liked the Attitude Era stuff. There wasn't so much technical wrestling, but I loved the crazy over-the-top characters. Will Ospreay is Welsh. Not to my... No, he's not. Olivia is Welsh. He's part Welsh. He is mainly an Essex boy with the thickest Essex accent you can possibly imagine. Ava Beth McGee says, oh, hey, I didn't know he did live streams. Hi, from Washington State. Hello to you, Ababeth. So that was terrible pronunciation. Hello to you, Ava Beth McGee. And I do not do live streams very often. This is a rare occasion, but it's always lovely to catch up and engage with you when I can. John Williams says, AEW has shown they are no different, flat out ordering indie wrestlers who they are and aren't allowed to book. Yes, there are a lot of backstage problems there if the dirt sheets are correct. Yeah, I just don't like the idea of working for anyone anymore. I really don't. Not unless it's on my toes. And Infinity X 2022 has just subscribed, but they probably can't see me thanking them because it's likely from a long form video. But if you're here, Infinity, say hi, and I will say hello back to you. Liam Hughes, Jimmy Savile, a wrestler. We do not talk to him. He shouldn't be anything. So it's obviously he just got beat one knockout KO on that. He used to have wrestling matches with not much knowledge of pro wrestling, if I recall, and that is literally what he did. He would take beatings from seasoned professionals, almost for his ego, to show how hard he was that he could take beatings. Top Hat, are UKPYW videos online? There should be, but I don't know where you'd find them, if that makes sense. Willow Rock says, isn't he more known for that music show, Top of the Pops, or whatever it was called? Now then, yes, he absolutely was. That is what he's most known for, but he done loads. He was sadly an icon in British pop culture. He was known for his charity work. He was known for Top of the Pops. He was known for Jim Will Fix It. He was everywhere, that man, sadly, including many hospitals. John Williams said, also people fighting in the back every couple of months. Yes, that is what we hear, isn't it? Fighting's a part of life. The stories I've heard about WWF would make you cringe. Yeah, there's lots of horrible ones, isn't there? Super creepy, predatory company. Yeah, yes, you do hear a lot of that sort of thing, don't you? Like, I always wonder if I had got signed, how long it would have actually managed to last. Because I was so obsessed with wrestling when I was younger that I would have snapped it up at the time. Like, I would have gone, yes, I would give up everything just to do this. But how long would have actually been able to deal with the authoritarianism? That's a different question altogether. And the hazing and all of that. Like, I don't know how people just put up with it. Like, any of that sort of behaviour is nonsense. No, there's 0% chance that any of us are autistic or ADHD. Indeed. Alfamos Gomez from Brazil. Great country. Says WWE died the day Brock Lesnar beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania. I never watched WWE again and I feel all the better for it. Yes, that was a bizarre thing for them to do. Raj Ram has just subscribed. Again, I doubt you're in the chat. If you are, hello to you. Ignis says, do you like the videos on reliving the war about the Monday Night Wars between WWF and WCW? What are they on? Is it old WWE Network stuff, or is it something separate? Or is it that the Northern Irish guy, WrestleBars, is he the one who did that? I don't know. I've seen lots of stuff on it, but there's so much media on that sort of thing. Whether I've seen the exact thing you're talking about is a different question entirely. What else have we got? Fonseca, Cody Rhodes, The Bloodline, Drew and Punk all say otherwise. Have you read the Communist Manifesto? Says Soy Boy. I'm not sure if it's someone I know who are trolling me or it's really serious. No, I've not directly read the Communist Manifesto, but I am staunchly against communism or any extremist ideological stance. Anything like that, you can fuck off. Money makes things easier. Money can make things easier, but at the end of the day, whilst money can make things easier, working too much can make things more difficult. So it's about finding the balance, isn't it? It's always about balance. That's everything in life. Politics, whatever we're talking about. Ideologies, life is balance. So yeah, you can earn an absurd amount of money, but if you're getting no quality of life and you're not getting a chance to enjoy that money, you're not making your life easier. So it all depends, doesn't it? I wanted to be Goldberg or Sting so badly back in the 90s. WCW was life back in the day. Yes, they were very popular, wasn't they? I was more of a WWF fan at the time, so I was like, I loved people like Edge and Christian, the Dudley Boys, William Regal, Stone Cold, The Rock, all those sort of people. Holly Binky, hello there, says, hi, would you do Lost Films? Would you do Lost Films? I have autism. So you have autism. Thank you for telling me that. Would I do Lost Films? I'm not sure. I potentially would, because it's very difficult on YouTube to go too far outside of your niche, then have YouTube suggest your videos. Firstly, there's barriers in place, such as the ability to get click-through rates, and then past that, there's the ability to have it suggested to the correct audience in the first place. It's a fun concept, but I do not think that I would be able to get the views in it unless I pivoted away from the stuff I've done. Now, I'll give you an example. My channel has suffered in the last few months simply because I was audacious enough to start making Power Rangers and Final Fantasy content on top of the fighting game content. It just confused the fuck out of the algorithm. And although some videos have done very well, some have also done abysmally, even though they've got good watch retention and sometimes good click-through rates, but I've just really, really confused the what's it called? The algorithm. So yeah, that's why I wouldn't do it, because it's too different. I couldn't do it based on that. But good idea. Old WWE stuff is on Netflix now. It is indeed, at least some of it, not all of it, sadly, from what I know. We're not as much as what was on the network. So Willow Rock says, gotta go neighbours, have a cookie for me. Enjoy your cookie. Says it's on Wrestling Bios, John Williams. So I was correct when I said Wrestling Bios. Yes, I have seen some of that. John Williams with another $5. Thank you so much. That is very much appreciated. Wow. Says, in fact, nobody wants to accept most of my fans flat out don't know who Andy is or Art of Fighting, King of Fighters. If that is correct, that is absolutely ridiculous. Like, how can you be It's ridiculous, but I guess there is some truth to it. And £2 from Lady Decade creating a false economy. Thank you so much for taking £2 out of our joint bank accounts just so you can have a say. Typical woman, eh, ladies and gentlemen? But yes, thank you so much. John Williams, what did you say? In fact, nobody wants to accept most of my fans flat out don't know who Andy is or are to fight it. Yep, they don't, do they? But you can say that for a lot of characters who have appeared in games bigger than the franchise they are from. Such as, what's a good example? Smash Brothers has to be full of characters like that, surely. In fact, I'm going to invite you guys to give me some examples of characters like that. Speaking of that, I always found it really confusing how there was always an outcry. We've got to get Banjo-Kazooie in Smash. We've got to get Banjo-Kazooie in Smash. Yeah, no call for Fulgor from Killer Instinct, despite the fact that not only is Killer Instinct a fighting game, so it would make more sense to have a fighter in the game than Banjo, but also Killer Instinct sold twice as well as Banjo-Kazooie. So why are the Banjo-Kazooie fans so much more loud and vocal that they wanted Banjo in the game than Killer Instinct people? Let's hear your thoughts, because that's another interesting discussion we're opening up. That was, again, terrible pronunciation. Rajram, hello there. Says, hi, Top Eight Gaming Man. I love your videos, especially your videos on Killer Instinct. This is my most favourite game franchise of all time. I keep hoping, praying, and fantasising of a ROM dump of the Killer Instinct 2 Super Nintendo game. Yes, I would love that to happen too. One of the former Rare guys, I can remember him off the top of my head, actually. Tim Stamper is the one, isn't it, who posts pictures of his, whatever it's called, chip, is it? The ROM chip on his X account sometimes. And it's very frustrating because I would really like to see what's on there as well. Maybe there's not a lot on there. Maybe that's why he can't show us. Io says, I bet you don't believe in astrology. I also bet a lot of people have told you you're very much an Aquarian. I reckon you've looked up my birthday. Surely. I don't believe in astrology, but I am indeed an Aquarius. I hope you've looked up my birthday and astrology isn't real. But yeah, let me know. Luke Scarrett says, I just got here. What do you mean by it's over? This better be clickbait. It is indeed, Lucas Garrett. I said right at the beginning of this stream what it's over meant. I said, it's over. The wait is over for me to live stream again, which is why I'm now here. Mikanea says, Killer Instinct 1's never been on the Nintendo 64. Defies all logic to this day. But I guess it's just, you got Killer Instinct Gold though on there, haven't you? I guess it's because the Super Nintendo, Killer Instinct came out I think in 1994, and the Nintendo 64 didn't hit the market until 1996. So there was a 2-year gap. So they put Gold on there. Wasn't Gold an it was amalgamation of 1 and 2? I guess it was just a different version of 2, wasn't it? With different backgrounds and stuff more than 1. Andrew Thomas says, Jesus, I thought something happened to my favourite YouTuber that wears a hat. No, nothing has happened. Says, oh my God. John Williams, thank you kindly for another $2 or $1.99. Thank you kindly. You're probably the top donator to this stream with your kind donation. Says, is Decade Lady's maiden name? It's Decade Lady's maiden name. It is not her maiden name. But for data protection purposes, I'm not sure what I can do. I should tell you what her maiden name is. Or not you so much, the whole entire audience. Black Fox 777 says, I think that has more to do with Rare. Throughout the years, Banjo was one of the popular choices, always on the surveys, and one of the fan favourites that fans wanted to see. Yeah, I know that, but what I don't get is Killer Instinct was a more popular franchise than Banjo. It's a more popular Rare franchise. It's much more popular. It had a bigger audience. More people played it. More people enjoyed it. So why would a Smash fan we want Banjo, but not give a fuck about poor Fulgor? Because Fulgor's way more iconic. Says Killer Instinct was in the arcades with the Ultra 64 logo and was supposed to be a launch title. It was indeed. But we know the circumstances changed. John Williams, the angry video game nerd, personal write a letter to Rare, and they just said there were tech issues. John Williams, another $1.99. Thank you for making me so happy. Thank you. So your surname is not Top Hat. No, my surname is Parliament, Richard Parliament. Or it might not be. It's certainly one of my aliases. TW Denizen says, I've always mixed up the release dates, years of Killer Instinct and Weapon Lord on the Super Nintendo. Both were ahead of their time. I don't think I've actually ever played Weapon Lord. I might have to look more into that one. It's as good as Killer Instinct, is it? I'll have to look into it. So wait, you're in it? No, I've disclosed this. It's over. The wait for my next live stream is over, as it's happening right now. Izzyman says, much love to Top Hat Gaming Man and to the rest of chat. I look forward to it. Nearly burped. That would have been not very gentlemanly. It's Saminath has now subscribed. They're probably watching another video, but if you're here, hello to you. So much love to Top Hat Gaming Man and the rest of chat. I look forward to your amazing fighting game videos and super glad to learn your wrestling knowledge. Respect, Hadouken! Thank you so much, and I hope to speak to you in a future stream, maybe, and I hope you continue to enjoy the content. Thanks for joining us tonight. And I've got another subscriber. Missed it, but they're probably not here anyway. But if you are here, why would I tell you to subscribe if you've already subscribed? That makes no sense. Say hello. No, I say hello back to you. Eddie Lex says, was in the audience back in the late 80s when Ultimate Warrior defeated Macho Man and ripped off Elizabeth's clothes. They tried to make Ultimate Warrior as popular as Hulk Hogan, but it didn't work. It did not, did it? But was that more the case of he wasn't as popular as Hogan, or he didn't put in the same amount of time into always being at work? Like, did he no-show and stuff like that? Or have I listened to too much WWE propaganda? John Williams says, that's identity theft. After all we know, I'm the real John Williams. You are indeed the real John Williams. Star Wars, famous composer, Jurassic Park composer, and many others, which are slipping my mind. Indiana Jones, perhaps. Roger Arms says, Top Hat, is Killer Instinct one of your favourite fighting video instincts? Is Killer Instinct one of your most favourite fighting videos as well? That's a good question. My favourite fighting videos. I would say my favourite one I've ever made years ago. It's definitely not the most polished. No, I'd say two of them, and they're not the most polished because they're so old. But I liked the visceral reactions they generated and what they did for the channel in terms of its growth. I made a video called something along the lines of why nobody played Street Fighter 3, and I did one after that. People got really angry with me for doing that video, like Street Fighter 3 fans. Oh, it's the best game ever, blah, 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 blah. But it was more about why no one played it, because it was like a Dreamcast exclusive, and people were bored of 2D sprite-based games at the time. And it didn't arrive home from the arcade till several years after, and it just sold poorly to begin with. There's so many reasons that game didn't perform well. People got really angry with it. And then after that, I made my most favourite video ever, where I had all these toxic comments. So what I did, I found all the comments I wanted to make rebuttals for, and then I flew over to Romania, and then I went to the bottom of a real-life salt mine to salt mine my comments. Yeah, it was amazing. That's one of the most elaborate, ridiculous things someone's got to have done for a YouTube channel, surely. I went to a Romanian salt mine to salt mine my comments. So yeah, that's my favourite fighting game video ever. Yes, definitely that one. Savannah says you should legally change your name to Big Daddy Top Hat. That is not a bad idea. Red Beans and Rice says, what's your favourite fighting game character? Dudley, perhaps? I do have a soft spot for Dudley. Dudley is definitely up there. Love M. Bison. Again, just a classic villain. I do love classic villains. Who else is great fighting game characters? Yeah, there's a lot. But again, that's a very specific question when there's so many fighting game characters to love. Who else? Having a brain fart. If I think of it anymore, I will get back to you. The no-showing was in his second run. Warrior arguably wasn't presented as the main guy when he won the title, as Hogan was booked to be the bigger deal. Oh, I see. And 3 is also arguably less easy to play compared to the other main game. Yes. It seemed to have been made with an established audience in mind rather than attempts being made to grow the audience. And says, Romania is my personal favourite country. It is a great country. I think I've been 3 times. I like it that much. I do like Romania. And once I went for an entire month. Yeah, great place. I do love it. Love you, bro, says Sazy. I love you too. Thank you for tuning in. Sweet Life of Dio Brando says Hazuma is my favourite fighter, mainly since Blaze Blue got me into the genre. And Humblebee says salute to you. Love your content. I'm glad you enjoy my Humblebee and content, Humblebees. Thank you very much. Black Fox says, for that, I feel Sakurai probably made that decision for Killer Instinct over Banjo, but it's possible that Banjo was easier to model. I think it's just the fact of like the stereotypical Nintendo fanboy likes cutesy characters who are a bit like Mario or Kirby or Pikachu. I think Banjo fits more closely in line with those than say Fulgore. I think that's the most logical reason for it, because in terms of like impact, Fulgore made more, in my opinion. Bunnyhead says, hey, it's the guy with the weird teeth that read Wikipedia of other people's articles in YouTube. Hi. Hello to you, Bunnyhead. If that is your low IQ opinion of me, then I'm afraid I cannot help you. Mr. Sidegunnigus says, Iori Yagami. Yes, that is a great villain, isn't it? From the King of Fighters franchise. And they says his story is funny too. Where's Murdoch says, hello, gents. Can you please say bottle of water? I can indeed say bottle of water. Funnily enough, here's an interesting story for you regarding Cockney. Top Hat Gaming Man, you should know this if you watch this a lot. It's a persona. I am putting on a persona, playing a very posh gentleman in a top hat. But the character is not actually supposed to be posh. I don't know if you know that. I am meant to be which is true, a common as muck gentleman trying their absolute hardest to be more middle class than I actually am. That's the concept of the character. A bit like Del Boy, only a little bit more of a stiff upper lip. Over time, I grew up in London. I lived in London until I was 16 years old, and I was full Cockney back then. That my accent was completely Cockney. So let's try and de-gimmick it a little bit. Oh. Need to try and get out of character. Right. Now, this is amusing. What's really difficult, because I've played this character for so long in YouTube for a decade, and before that in professional see, I'm struggling to talk now. Stop the gimmick. Because I've played the Top Hat Gamer Man character for 10 years on YouTube, and before that as a character called Richard Parliament on the British wrestling circuit. So it's been 19 years in total I've been playing a character. I find it really hard now to talk on camera and then not just go into the character all the time. So I've pretty much given up talking like this, because it will only be a matter of time until I go full gimmick again. And if you watch a lot of wrestling, Hogan has this same problem. When he's performing on camera, he can't go out of character. Like, do you remember when the NWO formed and Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, the gimmick was that they basically dropped character? Hogan couldn't do that. So it was this really strange contrast of Scott Hall and Hogan, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash playing these really serious characters. And then you had Hogan with them, and Hogan was, oh, let me tell you something, brother. So you had this cartoon character with these essentially normal acting geezers. But, so yeah, up until I was 16, I had a full-blown Cockney accent. And then I moved to Essex for 20 years. I trained as a school teacher as well amongst all of that. And they didn't like my accent during teacher training. So when I was in official observations and stuff like that, they actually made me change the way I speak in order to even be allowed to teach. Like, up until then, I couldn't even pronounce THs. Like, I can now say there, then, that. All words like that. But before that, I couldn't. Like, look, this is if I talk more freely, I'd say that. I'd say that, or the top hat, rather than the top hat. I had to learn how to do that as an adult. And funnily enough, I believe that is classed as discrimination now. You can't actually say to someone, look, mate, your accent's completely wrong. talk posher. You can't do that. But that was not even long ago. We're talking, when did I train as a teacher? I think it was about 7 years ago. You could still do that, but yeah, you can't anymore. But there's a lot of classism in the UK, particularly if you're a graduate like I am. You notice this classism, so you have to change your accent a bit. So you answer the phones, you put on a bit of an accent. And the character Top Hat Gaming Man, which was Richard Parliament in wrestling before that, I was essentially meant to be a common as muck guy, completely rough around the edges, who put on this fake accent in order to pretend to be someone I wasn't, because I was the wrestling politician. So that's why the accent sounds completely ridiculous, because it was meant to sound completely ridiculous. It was someone common pretending to be posh. That was the gimmick. And sometimes the idea was that if I got really, really wound up in the ring, the cracks would slip. And then the whole audience would see I was common, I was rough, I was just a rapscallion, essentially. So yeah, let's see how well I can get on without the character. Although, let's be honest, life is about characters, life is about masks, life is about personas, isn't it? Let's be clear there. Like, all of you will be turning up to your jobs every single day, and you'll be putting on an entirely different mask to the one you're putting on when you're speaking to your friends, and then another one for your family, and another one for another group of people, because that's what life's all about. It's a work. So in many ways, wrestling's as real as anything else. Everything's at work. So let's catch up with the chat. So Robert Rivera says, what's up, fellas? So it says, thank you, sir. Love the content. A says, Wallace and Gromit. Red Beans and Rice says, I think just about any European country has more intriguing culture than here in the US, especially Romania. I find people to be more refined. Yeah, America. I've travelled America. I went there for 3 months solid across 25 states, and I've been there multiple times. And I love America, but I love America for the landscapes. You have some amazing natural beauty, and you also don't have many people. You've got this massive space and a mere 320 million people, is it, in it? 360 million? Not many, considering how big the country is. So I love the natural beauty, and I love that there's not many people there. But you're right, there isn't any culture. It's like being in a Hanna-Barbera cartoon. Every row's the same. You have like McDonald's, you have Walmart, you have Chili's, you have Wendy's, you have Pizza Hut, you have KFC, Applebee's, and you're literally in a Hanna-Barbera cartoon. Every road is the same with the same fucking businesses. It's depressing as fuck. Like, how would you guys not go round the twist, having like every road on a continental-sized country be exactly the same as the next? Like, how do you deal with that level of corporatism in your life every day that you're literally having Groundhog Day? Wherever you go, it's all the same. You're right. That's not culture, is it? It isn't culture. I love America. A lot of the people are great. The landscapes are even better. But culture, yeah, you're right. It's just bits of culture appropriated by corporations. That's what American culture is. It's corporate control. Corporations control everything there. A power over every part of your life. Like, I've been saying this a lot recently because I believe Vance, for some reason, keeps sticking his big fat nose in and going on about freedom of speech in the United Kingdom. I'm like, really? You fucking stupid moron. Like, are you serious? You are going on about freedom when you live in America? Are you serious? Like, if people want me to go into it, I can give you loads of reasons why I've got more freedom living in the UK than anyone has living in the United States. Like, having less government intervention in your life does not make you more free. That's laughable. Because without government intervention, you have more corporate intervention. And corporate intervention's even more intrusive and even worse. So I'd rather a little bit of government intervention than a fuckload of corporate intervention. How can you be free in a country when you live in the United States that has a tax system that mirrors Eritrea, one of the biggest shitholes in the entirety of Africa? What I mean by that is, if you've got US citizenship and you want to take a job in the UK, you want to take a job in France, Italy, Japan, China, Russia, Greece, Romania, Hungary, Timbuktu, anywhere in the freaking world, you have to pay fucking tax to America. Like, how can you be free if you leave the country and you still got to pay your wages back to the country you've left unless you renounce your citizenship? That's not freedom. That's like authoritarian nonsense. Like, how can anyone be happy with that? That's lunacy. Like I said, Eritrea is the only place on the planet with rules that draconian other than the United States. Yet they criticise my freedom. Mental. And like I said, I can list so many reasons beyond that. Like, and another thing as well, now we've gone into this topic, is the whole difference between having a president in power and having a parliamentary system. So your president and vice president in the United States, they say dumb as fuck shit all the time, as does our prime minister, as do all of our MPs. The difference is, though, with a parliamentary system, we have prime minister's question time every Wednesday. So they will tell an outright lie on the Friday, and by Wednesday, every single Wednesday, in fact, they get held account for their lies. So they will have members of the opposition literally up on a podium against them, debunking what they've said, and everyone pointing and laughing at them for saying preposterous things. No one seems to be able to do that in America. So they've got a man or men at the moment saying these ridiculous lies, and the opposition aren't there going, don't be a fucking moron. Like, that's too much power for anyone. Like, oh, sorry, you put me on a little bit of a rant now. I can't even remember how it happened. America's turned into shopping malls. Yes, there's a lot of shopping malls. You'd have to go to local places for anything cultural, which should be native stuff, which is rare. Rampant consumerism, and that is certainly how it felt from my visits. Can't forget Five Guys. I do love a bit of Five Guys, I'll be honest. We've got a lot of Five Guys here as well now. But in a way, this is almost feels like it's becoming a US satellite state. There's been so much change here. Like, Americans are slowly owning everything. Only investors were happy about Elon in government, not now. I agree, the US is in shambles. Yeah, and this is so funny. Like, Trump said on TV, I think it was today actually, the world aren't laughing at America anymore. Like, are you serious, bro? I was like, I can't remember any point in my life where I've not looked and laughed at so many comments made by anyone in power, America or not, any country. Like, it's really, you don't think people are laughing at the moment? That's crazy to me. And by the way, for full clarity, I'm a centrist who has generally only ever voted for right-wing candidates in the United Kingdom. I do hold a lot of conservative values, but he literally just spouts nonsense. It's not conservatism. It's not conservative. I can't even get the words out now. Conservative is... I can't say it. What an idiot. Conservative... No. I can't say it. What an idiot. But yeah, you know what I'm trying to say. Yeah, he doesn't have conservative values. There's very little conservative values around what they're doing at the moment. It's anti-conservative. It's all over the place, isn't it? Like, it's harebrained. Rebrand says, I want to move to the UK, EU. We, of course, have our own problems here. Everyone has problems, but that's the difference. And that's what's annoying me at the moment. Vance keeps going on about all these problems we have when they've got their own you've got your own problems in your country too. Worry about your problems. We worry about our problems. That's the way I see it should be. Say, yeah, but we don't get arrested for offensive memes. Again, you're just reading propaganda, Eddie Lex, if you really think that is how it works over here. It's not. That is literally partisan nonsense. You cannot get arrested for offensive memes. You can, however, get arrested for hate speech. For example, if I go on Twitter and I write, I want to burn down a certain religious building, that would be hate speech and I would be arrested. It's as simple as that. And I don't see what's wrong with that either. I've got no problem with that at all. Like, I think it would be unhinged to be allowed to say anything. And in fact, since we're on freedom of speech and you've brought that point up, that brings up another important point regarding why I think American freedom of speech is utterly ridiculous compared to UK freedom of speech, or sorry, freedom of expression, because the idea of freedom of speech is ridiculous. We have freedom of expression in this country rather than just calling it freedom of speech. In that, like, you've just brought that bit up. So an example would be in the US, you can talk shit and say whatever you want about anyone. You can tell every single lie you want about someone under the sun, no matter how nasty, no matter how untrue, no matter how defamatory. You have the right to do that living in the US. You can utterly terrorize someone, make them miserable, which is why cancel culture works so well in the United States. It's the way freedom of speech works, and the way in which you cannot sue someone for defamation unless it is proven in a court of law you actively knew what you were saying wasn't true. So if I lived in America and I made up a load of lies about someone, but no one found out that I knew I was lying, I could actively just keep on lying by law. But in the UK, under freedom of expression, which I think is a lot fairer and makes a lot more sense, if somebody in the UK tells a load of lies about me, slanders the fuck out of me, it doesn't matter whether it can be proven that they know they are lying or not. If they are spouting stuff that simply isn't true, I can sue them for defamation. It should be as simple as that. If people are saying things that aren't true, you should have recourse to deal with that. You shouldn't be allowed to spout bullshit. And I think that's fair. Like, let me know in the comments. Lisa says, just go with right wing. Stratophoenix says, can someone catch up to speed on what Top Hat is talking about? I just got here. Oh, we're talking about the differences between freedom of speech and freedom of expression at the moment. I can't remember how it got into this exactly, but I know, I don't remember at all now. Like I said, it's gone from one thing to the next. Lisa says, if it was, I'd be in jail. Why would you say that? Say, well, we are not paying taxes to kind of get social security. You're a citizen. If you want the services, then I've got to catch up with what I'm up with. It's over. Just got here. At the beginning of the stream, I said, it's over. The wait is over to come and see one of my streams. So welcome everyone who is here. And remember what I said earlier about slowly slipping back into character. It's happening, isn't it? So let's put the hat back on. Let's put the jacket back on. Because kayfabe, brother, is very difficult to break. Very difficult for me. I'm too old school. That's the problem. Yeah, because why should you just be able to say someone kicks puppies if they don't kick puppies? Like, that's crazy, isn't it? That's nonsense to me. Yeah, that's nonsense. And you've got to distinguish the difference as well. Like, it's illegal. Some of people as well get muddled up between civil offences and criminal offences, I've noticed. For example, like I said, if I said on social media I wanted to burn down a certain religious building, that would be a criminal offence. However, if I made defamatory statements about someone that wasn't true, that would be a civil offence. So you wouldn't go to prison for the defamatory statements. You could just get sued by someone. And it's the same as in America, you can get sued, but you don't have to prove that the person said it knowingly or not. If they said untrue things, you've said untrue things. It's as simple as that. Because why should you be saying bullshit about someone? You should know what you're saying. So I think you can spout it, but you do face ramifications for public ridicule or legal issues. Which country are we talking about? America. Yeah. And that's what I was talking about, cancel culture. And there's a lot of corporate oversight. There's more corporate oversight in the US than in the UK. Thank you for pointing out my carpet. We changed it not long ago, Lisa's. I'll give you an example. Employee rights in the US are much lower than in the United States. For example, I believe it's as simple as, in that country, if you said something political on using your X account that your employee doesn't like, they can just get rid of you, just like that. No questions asked in the United States, where our employment law means within reason, you can pretty much say what you want on social media politically. Like, for example, if I said, I don't know, fuck the Conservatives or fuck the Labour Party, under most employees, I couldn't get fired from my job. Knuckle Sandwich says, your stance on LGBT, Palestine and Ukraine. I've not particularly... On the first one of those three, I feel like it's often used to deflect from larger issues. Like, I believe everyone should be treated equally as a whole, and it's as simple as that. And way too much emphasis is put on it when there's actually, like, huge issues in the world, such as war, as you just pointed out, Palestine and Ukraine. Palestine, Israel, I don't know enough about to have a strong opinion on. Ukraine, they're a country who has been invaded by another country, much like the UK was by Germany during the Blitz. So I believe the United Kingdom should be doing everything in its power to help defend that country's sovereignty. Like, national sovereignty to me is paramount. Like, I was a Brexit voter, for crying out loud, because I feel that strongly about national sovereignty. So the UK should be doing all they can around the world to ensure borders are enforced and we don't go back to the way of the jungle where superpowers can just steamroll into other countries and take their land. That's utterly ridiculous. So yeah, that's how I'd answer those three things. Sam Violet says, hi Topic Gaming Man, what's the context of this stream? It is a just chatting stream and we've gone with the flow. We talked a lot about wrestling in the early portion of it. I think we then dived into fighting games and now it's headed toward politics. So it's all over the place, really. So saying something is alleged isn't saying something for fact. That's why MCN does it. Alleged? Yeah, of course. That's not defamation. If you say, allegedly, I heard, then yeah, that's not defamation because you've said it allegedly. It's when you try and say something outright as a potential fact, then you're in trouble. So Mr. Q says, oh, scared me. Thought it's over. It's in the channel is going. And hearing hard debate here. Love you, man. And yes, this is literally just a free-flowing conversation. Yeah, I'm going absolutely nowhere. And I'm so grateful that you're all here talking with me. I love you all very much, no matter where you're from in the world. So thank you for joining me tonight. Raj Ram says, Top Hat, would you be so kind as to put up a quick link poll? What is your favourite Killer Instinct game? 1, 2, or gold? I'll potentially do that. So Stoner Guy says, doesn't mean the same as employer rights are greater in the USA. Which do you suppose makes your country richer? Depends how you define rich. Like, are we talking about GDP or are we talking about other aspects? Because of course, the more you have your people work, the higher the GDP is going to get. Such as China has got a ridiculous GDP because they've got a ridiculous amount of people and they've had them all work for pennies and pumping money into the economy. Of course, it's going to help the country economically for the less rights people have. Like, China's the prime example of a country like that. So of course, like I said, life's about moderation, in my opinion, and too much corporatism is not moderate. They only invaded though due to NATO expansion. Yes, it is a convoluted topic, isn't it? I wouldn't say they only invaded due to NATO expansion. I think that is oversimplifying it massively. For example, if you remember in the early days, that wasn't even brought up. Well, it was brought up, but not to the extent they used to say, we are going to denazify Ukraine. That was the points the Kremlin was putting out all the time. We're getting rid of the Nazis in Ukraine. So they've changed their tone quite a bit as the campaign has gone on. So it's not just about NATO expansion. And again, there wouldn't have been NATO expansion in the first place if they hadn't of used means in the past to make countries such as Poland and other nations satellite states. They basically occupied Central Europe post-World War II, and that's the entire reason there's been NATO expansion in the first place. So NATO expansion is a consequence of Russia's past aggressive actions. So yeah, you can say it's because of NATO expansion, but NATO shouldn't have felt the need to expand. It's because of Russia's actions that there is needed to be a NATO in the first place. So yeah, YouTuber will flat out say person A said person B did thing, then the commentator will spread it without checking it. Yes, they do that all the time, John Williams, and I think it's vile and it's absolutely disgusting. I hate creators who do that. I really do. The scum of the earth, in my opinion. Yeah, low brow shit asses. Knuckle Sandwich says, I was actually a wrestler on the Australian indie scene from 2007 to 2014. Interesting. You hear quite a lot of things about Australia these days and their wrestling. Was that fun? Clickbaiters deserve special treatment. So the guy says, Best Killer Instinct is the new one. There's a lot of fans of that. You got the Battletoads in it, haven't you? So your love and compassion triggers me. So the guy says, we're talking about building a middle class, bro. Someone who can stand up to the government and church and stuff. I'm lost in what conversation we're even in now. John Williams, the Killer Instinct reboot was great. It was very good at the time, wasn't it? It was strange the way they laid it out a bit. Like, if you remember, didn't it come on a disc for like £10? And then it was one of the early games that had multiple seasons of DLC. So that was a bit strange, but yeah, I like it. You don't hear that much about it anymore, though, do you? And it's not really cool for a new Killer Instinct game. I think that would be a really good one to bring back, because they're bringing back Fatal Fury at the moment and Virtua Fighter. But I feel, in the West at least, Killer Instinct would get a bigger reaction than those two. I think it had a much bigger following. Oh, Joseph Ryan, thank you so much. Here's a few American dollars. What was your wrestling finisher, and has it ever changed? Thank you, Joseph Ryan. Not overly. I do a backstabber, the same finisher that Carlito uses. But when I did it, I started performing it in 2008. And because that was around the time the Black Rock recession began, I referred to it, I was wrestling politician, it was known as the credit crunch. Which is a very dated name for a finisher. Now, Larry the Batman fan says, hello, Top Hat Gaming Man. How long have you been doing YouTube for? 9 years I've been running this channel. Do you like Jeff Minter? Looking forward to iRobot April 17th. iRobot April 17th? Jeff Minter. Jeff Minter. That is the game. Tempest 2000 and all that. That's Jeff Minter? It is, isn't it? Yeah, I like his work. It's psychedelic. We've got like 4 going on at the same time, but we have got a lot of conversations. I'm starting to get a bit lost. So great points, Top Game Man. There's a lot of intricacies in play here, but it is undeniable that NATO expanded far past what is promised not to be, even after post-World War II Russian aggression was far extinguished. Yeah, there's loads of moving parts, though, isn't there? For example, isn't there also the nuclear agreement? What occurred when Ukraine handed their nuclear arms back to Russia? Wasn't the agreement that under no circumstances would Russia invade after that? And if they did ever invade, the United Kingdom and the US would have to get military involved. There was certainly something along those lines. I've not got that perfectly. Oh, and Stoner Guy, thank you so kindly for your $3 US. I do love money, American money, British money, Canadian money. I love all money equally. I'm a very inclusive guy that way. So thank you very much for your kind donations. Michael Russell says, we do kind of have Killer Instinct characters in Mortal Kombat now, of Tusk, Conan, and Glacius T1000. Yeah, you've got influence all over the place. Everything influences everything else, doesn't it? Polybius being his best. I've not actually played Polybius. That's obviously based on the mythical arcade game, I would imagine. I'm a bit of a Batman fan myself. I tried to go to Blockbuster once and ask them if I can rent Batman Forever. But they said, I've got to give it back. Did you like that one? No? No one? Oh, okay. So what is your top 5 favourite game consoles, Top Hat Gaming Man? Let's give it a try. I will say the Super Nintendo, the Sega Saturn, the 3DS. Ooh, that's tricky. Those are my top 3, though. That is tricky. That is tricky. Anthony McKenzie, $2 donation. Thank you kindly. Come to Las Vegas for the first pint is on me. Thank you so much, Anthony McKenzie. I visited Vegas in 2016. And yes, it was a hive of scum and villainy, but a fun one at that. So yeah, very interesting. Very much like the gold saucer in Final Fantasy VII. That's the best way of describing that crazy place. Yeah, I travelled the US, went across 25 states, and I think I spent 5 days in Vegas. And yeah, it was really cheap. I think it was $20 a night in a motel. That was amazing. No love for the PS2. I like the PS2, but I don't love it to the same degree as other people necessarily did. And the reason that would be an age thing, I guess. I was 15 when the PS2 came out, and by the time it was cycled out, I was about 21. So that's not really a key time in life for gaming, is it? That's probably the most sociable aspect of human beings' lives, and myself included. So I was partying, drinking all the time, like I assume most of you probably were through that. Oh no, you can't, can you? Most of you are American, and you're not allowed to even start drinking until you're 21. So maybe I'm wrong. Although I imagine a lot of you are probably naughty boys and did it at parties anyway. In fact, I'm curious. When did you start drinking, Americans? Did you have to wait until you was 21, or did you find sneaky means to do it in other ways? Because in the UK, it was 18, but there wasn't strict ID so much back then. So I could start going to pubs when I was 16. And then I was like, they'd ask, how old are you? 18. And then they go, oh, fine. And then they just give you it anyway. So, but I know it's not like that in the US, because I went to America for the first time in 1996 when I was 10 years old. And my grandmother was with us, and they was asking her how old she was for ID, and she was well into her 50s. So I know it's definitely not. It certainly wasn't in Florida. They was very fun. Really, really. Again, that's another freedom thing. They were really weird. They're really weird about alcohol in the US compared to the UK. But yeah, I'm curious to hear this stuff. Cultural learnings, as Borat would say. I take it you saw Double Dragon 3 DLC coming in April. I did, and I also saw my name was in the trailer, which was always fun to see. Would you say the PS2 or PS3? Maybe the Atari 2600 or the NES is in your top 5. So yeah, there's a top 3DS, Super Nintendo, and what was the other one I said? PS and Saturn. I'm going to be really boring with the other two, and I'm going to say PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch, because those are the two consoles I'm playing the most at the moment. But that's more recency bias, I guess. I'm not sure I would like those as much in a couple of decades' time, but we'll see. Only time will tell. Vegas has the gold saucer theme playing on repeat 24/7 through the whole scene. That's how it feels. It does feel like that's how it should be. Or the Cantina theme from Star Wars. That's how a lot of it feels as well. PS2 having the top 10 simply because of how long it was being sold, but that's likely was because it was being bought by the military. Anthony McKenzie, that's a fair description. Mos Eisley and Cold Saucer, exactly. That is what it's like. Correct Retro Gamer says, I heard you use shorts instead of the lower part of a tuxedo. Is that true? Funnily enough, I have done that at points, and I am not dressed like this. Again, it is an illusion, so I will show you. Look. I'm dressed like mankind at the bottom of my apparel today, because I didn't plan on showing you it. But since you asked me to break the fourth wall, I will kindly do that for you. Very ashamed to admit we start drinking and smoking ganja at 15. Again, that's pretty similar to the UK, I guess. Yeah, it's pretty much the same. I'm not a spliffing weed sort of guy, mind you. I don't drink anymore either, to be honest. I'm completely teetotal. I'm a boring old man. Vegas is like a video game, music playing 24/7 and crime everywhere. That's a good way of describing it. It feels like a theme park, just a more corrupt one, if that makes any sense. It's a good way of describing it, isn't it? It feels like Disney World with a twist. Larry the Batman says you can't drink till you're 21 here in North America to drink. Yeah, I know it's 21, but I wondered how many people skirted the rules and how easy it was to actually do it. My parents used to let me drink so long as you could bonnet me. Like, for example, I didn't start going to America on trips until I was in my 20s, simply because of the drinking rules. Like, before that, when I was doing my travels, I started traveling on my own when I was 17. I'd go to European countries to drink alcohol and do stuff, but I didn't go to the States because of that reason. In fact, I tell you when, because my wife is 3 years younger than me and we've been together a long time, we didn't start going to the US until she had turned 21. So I didn't go there until I hit 24 for that reason, like as an adult. So I went when I was a kid, but didn't go again until I was 24. That was great back then because the pound used to stretch really far in the mid 2010s over there. I think it was around $2 to every pound. The exchange rate shit. Now comparatively, so that's one of the reasons I don't go much anymore. My pound doesn't stretch like it did back then. I've never been over where you are from, Ireland or something, huh? I am from England, but I hold a British passport and I hold an Irish passport because my grandmother immigrated here from Ireland. Were you in the trailer? Really cool. Have I got two conversations going on here? You were in the Clockwork Orange gang. I was about to say I would have liked to have been in the Clockwork Orange gang, but that wouldn't be very nice because that would have made me a rapist. So I'm not going to say that. I was thinking more for the fun fisticuffs they get involved with, forgetting about the even more dubious events they got involved with. What's the worst NES game you've ever played? That is a good question. What is the worst NES game? It's not a system I'm nostalgic for, so I've not played any game enough. I've got it, because I did have one in my childhood, but I got it after I played the Super Nintendo, so it was kind of underwhelming. Bart Simpson versus the Space Mutants. That was a particularly miserable game I played during my childhood, and played a lot during my childhood, and never got past the first level. Yes, very frustrating game. That one. Who's your favourite superheroes? The Tick. I really like the Tick. What do you think of the Tick? We got any Tick fans here? Stoner Guy, break the fourth counter. Pull out Mr. Socko. I do need a Mr. Socko. I bet everyone was... Are amphetamines for ADHD treatment? To be fair, I've not got a clue. I know that people who have really severe ADHD probably should potentially have treatment, but on the whole, what do we call them? Drugs for mental health or neurological conditions aren't dished out like, as you would call in the US, candy for every little thing over here in the UK. So generally, you don't just get drugged up if you've got ADHD here. You'll only be given like drugs for ADHD in really severe circumstances, like you're a complete terror sort of thing. Other than that, you're taught to manage it in other ways. Yeah, because why would you want a population walking around drug reliant? That's utterly ridiculous. That would just again, it feeds into the narrative I was talking about earlier in America, where everything revolves around corporatism, and that includes Big Pharma, which I'm sure a lot of you will agree with. Big Pharma don't have the same influence over here, so not everyone is existing purely on medication. My granny came over from Limerick too. Where did mine come from? Navan, I believe. I think it was Navan she came from. Bubsy 2. That Bubsy 2. That's an Acclaim game, isn't it? So I'm an Aussie, but my dad was from England, Yorkshire area specifically. Interesting, lovely part of the country. I do like good old Yorkshire. I remember, it amused me, last time I was over there, I stayed in a hotel, and I was in a lift with an elderly gentleman, and as we was going down, and he said the most northern thing I can imagine, the most northern British thing. It was like, oh, this reminds me of being down in the mines. And yeah, that made me laugh, because Margaret Thatcher, if you know your British history, closed all the mines and made the North poor. But yeah, bit of lore there. Spoon! Yes, that's the Tick, isn't it? Yes, the Tick was funny. That stuff like... Right up there, it was very Earthworm Jim. I've never put those two together, but you are spot on with that. And I loved Earthworm Jim as well. Yeah, big up the Tick, big up Earthworm Jim. Great, great in the 90s. Sanderbag says trailers they are talking about is the Double Dragon Gaiden DLC trailer, a new topic game, and I quoted, really excited for that 3 DLC. See, I would love to do another video on that game because I adore it, yeah? I've played through it multiple times. At one point, I had the highest score very briefly in the entire world at the top of the leaderboard on that game, but I did have early access to it, so I did have an advantage in a way. I would love to do another video on it, but I'm not sure how I could put a spin on something when they've just got 2 new characters added. I might reach out to the developer because he's a really nice chap and see if there's anything new we can bring to the table or providing coverage. Because I do like that game. It's really good. It's probably my favourite Double Dragon ever. Tiger Gamer Man, you got a lot of high IQ takes, fam. I work with ADHD kids. They mostly need exercise and love. I am almost certain that I have 2 ADHD kids myself, and I've spent a lot of time as working as a school teacher, including in SEN and SCMH schools. And yes, you're spot on. Exercise and healthy eating are just as important, if not more important, than any medication. So yeah, that's what you want to do. Eat lots of healthy food. Give your ADHD children loads of fruit, loads of vegetables. Like mine go absolutely crazy if I give them sweets full of colorants and E-numbers, and I imagine that's a lot of kids. So we keep that sort of thing away from their mouths, and that stops them from going as hyper and crazy as they potentially would. So I remember, K-Crick finished Bart after they saw in the magazine how, and was supposed to get past a pesky T-Rex that was on the way. So what are your favourite top 10 or 15 favourite Super Nintendo games? Let's give it a go. Ones that are easy to get in there. Link to the Past. These are obvious, some of these. Super Mario World. Secret of Mana. Final Fantasy VI. Earthbound. This list is probably typical as fuck. Jay Finitus just subscribed. Castlevania 4. Terranigma. I might have said that one already. It's hard to do 15. That's a lot just like that. Top 10 or 15. Oh, Star Fox or Star Wing as we call it here. What else do I... Oh, Gambe Goemon 2, Legend of the Mystical Ninja. I might have got through 10 there, but I absolutely adore those 10 games. And there's a lot more. And Stoner Guy, thank you kindly for your $2. That's really appreciated. Stoner Guy, yes, top. You're a teacher? Fascinating. Teacher, gamer bros, rise up. Yes, I am indeed a qualified school teacher I've worked in a range of settings. In one of my assignments, I was even tasked for 6 months with helping Afghan refugee children settle into the United Kingdom who had fled the Taliban under the Joe Biden administration. Although I believe it was Donald Trump who had the talks negotiated with the Taliban. So it was a combination of both governments fucking things up, I believe. But yeah, I've done all sorts in teaching. These are all stars. Big Candy and Big Pharma, best price forever. Yeah, exactly. Again, it's all of this corporate influence that fucks up the world, isn't it? There, yeah, exactly that. So you've got people fucking up people with medication. You've got people fucking up people with bad food. So you're medicating people who are eating the big food. They all feed into each other. It's like an axis of evildoers. Well, evil's the wrong word, isn't it? It'd be completely neutral. How would you what is the word for that? What would be a good word to describe entities that are money orientated and nothing else? It's neither good nor evil, but it is nefarious. Certainly nefarious. Turtles in Time, that is a great game. It is indeed. That's definitely the best beat 'em up on that platform. Goemon is dastardly underrated. I love that series so much. Never done any videos on it, strangely enough. Perhaps I should change that. How does your wife calm you down when you're having an episode? What sort of episode are we talking here? Exactly. Red Beans and Rice says Castlevania 4 was great. It is indeed. Interesting. Were they Christians or are they Muslims? They was all Islamic, Stoner Guy. But yeah, they was indeed. Crack K Retro Gamer says, any idea why they changed the name of Star Fox to Star Wing? I believe I read it or watched a video about it somewhere, but can't remember the reason why. There is rumours that it's because there was already a microcomputer game called Star Fox in the UK. Well, there was a game called Star Fox in the UK already on microcomputer. So they said because of copyright reasons. Another theory is because I think in Germany there was something called Star Vox as well, and they had one name for all of the power region. And then the other reason is apparently, I've heard, is because George Lucas or LucasArts had a working relationship with Nintendo during the 16-bit era and during the Nintendo 64 era, and they thought No, I'm getting my facts mixed up now. Those were the reasons I just gave you. Was the reason why it was it went from Star Fox to Star Wing, then it went from Star Wing to Lilac Wars, reportedly because George Lucas and co. thought Star Wing sounded too similar to Star Wars, so they went with Lilac Wars to separate the two further. But take those statements with a pinch of salt, because I am just trying to rattle those off the top of my head. Gotta go back to mixing some tracks for clients. Be easy, chat. Take care, Top Game Man. Appreciate you kicking it. Thank you so much for joining the chat tonight. I'd love to speak to you again on here in the future. That'd be great. Michael Boy says, hi, Top Game Man. Love the channel. Thank you for your hard work. From my family to yours, thank you. Thank you so much too, Michael. So I love that I joined the chat, and in 5 minutes it turned into bashing session on Big Pharma. There are so many problems in this world. That's the thing. You can hate the Republicans, you can hate the Democrats, and you can hate Big Pharma all simultaneously, like I do. Cabal. Mystical Ninjas on the Nintendo 64 is Kino. Kino, that's not a word I'm familiar with. Was that meant he was king, I imagine? I thought it was some strange slang, but I think you meant he was king. Maybe it is weird slang. Let me know. Axis of Evildoers. Ever seen the movie Thank You for Smoking? I recommend it. No, I'm not familiar with that. Simon the Baker. Much love from Sweden. Much love to you, too, Al Hog. Correct Retro Gamer says, amazing man, thank you for the answer. Saviva, you're unaware that you've got are you unaware that you've got ADHD? It's never been officially diagnosed. I'm nearly a 40-year-old man, but I am under the assumption that I've probably got ADHD, due to the way I behave, due to the way I think, due to the way I enjoy operating in everyday life, due to the way I communicate, and due to the fact that my children are being investigated for ADHD. So, yeah, put 2 and 2 together, you get a likely answer of 5. So, there's a very strong possibility. Lila, but it's never held me back doing anything. If anything, it's helped me through life. Lila Wars, the Phantom Menace, exactly. It would be confusing. Also, you can love conservative philosophy and hate Republicans, dog. Lots of us do. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, and I do have some conservative values, but I do have some liberal values too. I'm economically very conservative, and I think the way the Republicans are running the country in the United States at the moment, with all of those tariffs, you couldn't be operating in a less conservative way than that, can you? There's nothing risk-averse about what they're doing. That's not conservatism. I said it that time, I have to do it. Knuckle Sandwich, would you be a guest on Triple KO if you were invited? Of course, I'll go anywhere I'm invited within reason. Libertarianism is a way. There is a lot of, I do have a lot of libertarian values. Like, I do like to be as autonomous in my life generally as possible. But in a functioning society, you obviously do need an element of socialism in there, just as you need elements of capitalism, just as you need elements of libertarianism to function well and to have as best a well-being in life as possible. Prime example, without an element of socialism in the United States, you couldn't have a national military. You couldn't have a school system funded by the taxpayer. And those things arguably do a lot of good. And again, the more socialism you've got in the country, the less corporate oversight you have over your existence as well. Like, to me in America, corporations have too much control over your life compared to what most European citizens have. I can see a lot of Americans think the government have too much oversight over my life, but I would rather have the government have a little bit of oversight over my life because I can fucking vote them out than have corporations control me. Although people do try to say, oh, you can vote with your wallet. Yeah, a lot of good that is if everyone else is also voting with their wallet for the opposite corporations that you are voting for with your wallet. So that's just as problematic, really, isn't it? Yeah, I think a lot, when it comes to politics, I think a lot of people think of it as in too much of a partisan sense and too much of a surface level. Yes, elements of libertarianism are great. Yes, elements of socialism are great. Yes, elements of capitalism are great. But if you go too far extremes in any direction, you'll get a Somalia, you'll get an Eritrea, you'll get a Venezuela, you will get a North Korea. So too much of anything is not a good thing. That's my take on that. Anyway, I'm very conservative, someone says, but some people are just crazy. That's across the whole spectrum. As I said, anyone who is an extremist is generally crazy. Any of those. Don't lean into any ideology. Don't lean too far into communism. Don't lean too far into a religious belief. Don't lean too far into anything. It's not a good thing. Say, who's socialism, dog? There is Marx, Hitler. Exactly that. That's why I said you can only take bits and pieces of ideologies for them to be useful. Like, you don't just follow one way blindly. You need to take the best of all worlds. That's what democracy is, essentially. Although there are obviously some people argue against democracy and say we need an authoritarian state, so we have more of a steady, standardized direction. But I can't think of personally anything worse than living under authoritarianism. I already don't like doing what I'm told, so having a government have that much oversight over my life, I don't think I'd cope with that very well. It's 100%. Soviet Union. Same is true for democratic elections, though. Exactly. Spot on. Don't like socialism, stay off the public roads. Muslims block voting has entered the chat. None of those were too much capitalism, though. Any is too much into communism. You can have too much capitalism, though, can't you? You can, like I said, because when I'd say too much capitalism, that would be giving corporations, taking no control over what corporations can do. Because then, rather than the government controlling your life, the corporations will control your life instead, which is definitely the case, in my opinion. And I think in a lot of other people's opinion. So that's why you need some government intervention to keep these companies in check. Like you see it in America at the moment. How many people, especially on the right, who apparently love capitalism, how many of those people on the right, you'll definitely see this in gaming spaces, are constantly moaning about how much they hate the big investor groups, how much they hate, what's it called? Vanguard. How much they hate, what's the other one? BlackRock? Yeah, BlackRock. I said that earlier in the stream about the credit cards, but I meant Northern Rock, actually. Yeah. How much you go on about, a lot of you right-wingers go on how much about you hate BlackRock, how much about you hate Vanguard. They've only got that much power because that's the power they've been allowed under the American system. That's why they are powerful, because they are operating within the confines of the construct they're provided with. So if you want to eliminate the power Vanguard have got, you want to eliminate the power BlackRock has got, well, I'm afraid you have to adopt some more socialist policies. That's the only way you can change that. Is that not common sense? Like, you can't say you love capitalism and hate these companies and want them gone and be that much of an absolutist. It doesn't make any sense. You've got to think, be a bit more big grab brain about all this. Moderation, eat the meat, leave the bones. That's the kind of level-headed assumption that has no place in our modern discourse. That's eat the meat, leave the bones. Eat the meat, leave the bones. That's a bit of an oversimplification, though. There's Keynesian capitalism. Not a fan of capitalism like Keynesian capitalism, which is akin to socialism. Capitalism best on small local scale. Globalist capitalism is causing no end of issues. Name a country of too much Mrs. Eskew free market capitalism. I don't even know what Mrs. Eskew free market capitalism is, unfortunately. That's not something I'm familiar with. Greywing just subscribed. Probably not watching, but if you're here, hello to you. Yeah, they are deregulating EPA protections on dumping chemicals into the water supply. They lobby government for that power. That is not capitalism. That is absolute socialism. It's not. It's allowing corporations to run unchecked and be allowed to do what they want. That's capitalism. That's capitalism. I would argue that's more crony capitalism. Yeah, it is. Especially if you've got connections in the government, then yes, that's crony capitalism. Or gangster capitalism, even. Like, that's how it's been in Russia for a while, isn't it? It makes perfect sense if you study economics for 15 minutes, dog. Exactly. Capitalism needs checks and balances that it doesn't have today. Exactly. Everything needs checks and balances to some degree. Like, there's a reason why South Korea, for example, has one of the highest suicide rates in the developed world. That is partially down to the people of South Korea having the highest debt as individuals on the planet because of capitalism. Basically, there are problems to it. No system is perfect. I'm not even arguing against capitalism. I believe capitalism as a whole is the best system. I don't think we found anything superior. But I'm just saying you need little elements of other things to make it more streamlined and effective. When did the Fat Controller become so political? 2007. That's when I started the gimmick. Richard Parliament, the UK's only wrestler and politician. Back then, I didn't even know I didn't know my left wing from my right, which is quite amusing. But yes, I learned over time. Like, how can you not? The world's so ridiculously politically charged these days. Like, how can you not? It's all we get. Even as a gaming content creator. That's why it's come to this, because people have brought up politics. So it's devolved into talking about politics. I know content creators who were gaming content creators 3 months ago, and they've pivoted completely. And all they're doing these days is like reaction videos to whatever Donald Trump is saying, because Donald Trump is at the top of a news cycle every single day with all sorts of clickbait headlines, and that is what is generating the views on content, is reactions to Donald Trump over anything else. I'm looking forward to a day there is less discussions on politics again, and people are just more interested in having fun. But I feel we're quite a long way off that at the moment with all the upheaval all over the place. Big corporations lobby government for that power. Yes, they do. You're correct. Big governments do lobby the government for that power. But in a lot of countries, they've not got the capacity to lobby to that degree in the first place. The first thing that comes to mind when I hear BlackRock is the Transformers character that looks exactly like Iron Man. And the Japanese working themselves to the bone, yeah, that is another prime example. South Korea, the situation's even worse, though, from what I know, at least in terms of the debt crisis. Top Hat, is the UK left versus right is different from the American version? Very, very different. And I will discuss that a bit if you want to know. Stoner Guy, thank you kindly for another $2. Thank you. Starring Craig from Screw Attack is all about American politics now. Yes, I will agree with you there. But here's someone, I'd say he delved into it quite a while before the current news cycle. I know people who have jumped into it just in the last 2 months. And I'm not talking about, he does gaming and politics. He doesn't exclusively do politics. I'm talking about people who've pivoted from gaming to videos what are just politics centric. A great example, he's still doing gaming videos, but Asmongold, these days he's doing a lot of videos where they're just politics. There's nothing gaming involved. They're politics, because he's just creating content to generate the maximum views possible rather than creating the content purely for the fun of that, something he wants to talk about. So what is the difference between the left and right in American versions? There's, key differences. The weird obsession well, it's weird to me because I'm not American. The weird obsession to me in the United States between left and right is the obsession in the US on the right against trying to prevent as much government regulation as possible. In the UK, whether you're left wing or right wing, I'd say 99% of the population want to keep a nationalised health service. They want good public infrastructure, like they want buses running well. They want schools well funded. So that's a key difference straight away, is the emphasis on freedom in the US is different compared to the UK. We're more focused on how can the government spend our money to provide us with better services. Both sides want that, but traditionally the right in the UK has been about conserving money, conservatism, conserving money, and then spending it ways they deem appropriate. For example, austerity. Like, if you've not got much money at the moment, don't spend money, conserve it. It's that simple. Whereas the right on the other, the left on the other hand, would argue that you need to spend the money on welfare and stuff like that to bring up living standards as a whole, to make the economy stronger that way. So that's the big difference from what I can see. Is about that emphasis on freedom in America, the freedom to wield guns, and that's not something what the UK are after. Like, we just generally, the average citizen just wants to be wealthier, so they vote for the left because they believe they're in a position where the left wing party will make them wealthier, or they vote for the right wing party because they believe that'll make them wealthier and their life will be easier. So that's the big difference. Like, I think it's more economics based in the UK, whereas in the America it's more based on how much perceived freedom you've got, and the culture wars feed a lot into it as well. Obviously that's really oversimplifying it, but I think that's the key difference. It's that big focus on autonomy is completely different here to how people in the US perceive it, and what we see as freedom is completely different too. As I would, if any of you have been here for a while, how I would describe what freedom was compared to how some of you guys would define freedom. Did I miss a $2 donation? I'm not sure. So I say thank you again, Stoner Guy. There's $2 there. I don't know if I said thank you or not. I'll say thank you again. Told you, attention deficit sometimes. Please say Final Fantasy VI is the best Final Fantasy in deep official top hat, boys. Final Fantasy is the best Final Fantasy. But I'm not quite sure I'm telling the truth doing that. 7. I'm definitely a 7er. I think 6 is the second best Final Fantasy game, but 7 is my favourite. Side scrollers is more culture wars and hard politics. Spot on. That's spot on. And I don't know about you guys. Don't you feel the culture wars is getting tiresome now? Like, there's much bigger political issues in the world to be concerned about than that, surely. Whether you're whether you're a progressive left-winger or you're a conservative right-winger, surely there's more to worry about than that. We've got, like I said, economics, how much money we make, how easy our standard of living is each day. Surely that's more important. And I think, yeah, that's something I struggle to get my head around a little bit. It's particularly in the last few months since the world's got crazier. Not a fan of Asman. I take a lot of his takes are half-baked. Yeah, they're streams, aren't they? So, yeah, they are going to be. Like, I'd say all takes are going to be generally half-baked, my own included, throughout this stream, based on the fact that I'm just free talking. Like, if I was doing it in essay form, it would obviously be a lot more concise than this. Is that about Jamie Stern? I'm not sure. I tried voting with my wallet, but by not buying drugs. But there's still addiction, crime, slumlords, medical debt everywhere. Weird. Exactly. It's not something that actually fully exists. As an Italian, you're freaking wrong. In regards to what? Unless you're talking to someone else. The government don't fix these problems. And how has the government done fixing those problems? Sotonist. Oh, we're talking to someone else. The governments, they're usually shit, aren't they, across the board? Everyone's shit. No one's going to help us really except ourselves. It does feed back to the argument for libertarianism, but you need some safeguards so other entities don't fuck us over. You don't want the corporations fucking us over. You don't want the government fucking us over. So ideally, some sort of middle ground, hopefully. So we're at least fuckable. Have health services and schooling average brought down by third worlders? In what country are we talking about? In the UK, I would say certainly not. I think third worlders would probably be deemed a derogatory term, but if we're talking people from developing countries, from my experience as a school teacher, and as sadly statistics suggest as well, you can look any of these up, any of the UK government statistics. The lowest achievers in our schools are for our white working class boys in the UK. And that is pretty much through generational poverty. And the reason why I would say the pupils from developing countries generally fare better, because if you've got parents who care enough about you and care enough about themselves that they've made the effort to get out of a challenging environment, to go to one of the most wealthy countries in the world to achieve in, of course, you're in a better position than having no hope of parents or a one-parent, no-hope family, for example. So, of course, those children, despite having they've come from a tougher economic background, but socially they come from a stronger background than children who have lived through generations of welfare, if that makes any sense. Where are we up to? This isn't very gamey now, is it? If anyone's got any gamey questions, I'm sure a lot of you would probably like to divert to talking about this, unless you're genuinely finding these sort of discussions more interesting. Because everyone is now talking about politics. So if you want to talk about games, I am more than happy to divert. So USA uses the French Revolution era definition of left-right, simple as fam. Yeah, you're probably right by that. It's very simplified. And that's it. I think that's the problem a lot of the time. There's too much simplification across politics, full stop. Ricky still says it's really authority versus liberty. But yet Americans would rather have a strict government and the citizens keep their earnings in the UK. They would rather have a robust government that takes care of them. That authority versus liberty is very interesting, because that is the way I perceive US politics to often be presented in a very shallow way. But what I found really interesting today when I watched Donald Trump being interviewed on Fox News about the potential Ukraine ceasefire was, in a question, the interviewer asked him if he identified more with Vladimir Putin than he did with European leaders. And I can't remember whether he said yes or whether the interviewer said yes, but the general idea was that he said that he identified as a nationalist like Vladimir Putin does, and all the other Western government leaders are apparently globalists, which again, that is a huge oversimplification of things and a bit dishonest. Because yeah, there are elements that some of the European leaders are more globalist than those two people, and they're more nationalist. But again, to me, the argument, that's not how I would have framed the key difference between European leaders and, they didn't say just Vladimir Putin. I think they brought up North Korea as well. Like Kim Jong-un, I won't bother with my naming Trump because it's a bit of a different kettle of fish, but Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin and Xi, without a shadow of a doubt, they are all authoritarians. There's no question of the matter. Whereas all of those European leaders are more democratic. So really, you're looking at authoritarianism versus democracy rather than globalism versus nationalism. Because if China, yes, they are of the mindset, from what I know, that they're nationalist in the fact that they want their country to be rich as possible and to ascend the world leaderboard in terms of GDP and achievement, blah, 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 just as every other country does. But China is a merchant nation, and they always have been. And they want to do as much trade with as many countries as they can around the world. So is China really fully nationalist? I'd say they're more globalist than most European countries with the way they operate. But yeah, give me your take. Again, oversimplification that didn't really make sense to me. Anyway. Housing, law enforcement, building codes, Medicare, but people still try to keep raising costs when they know they can ask for even more if the government passed too. Yeah, everyone's after more money. That's sadly part of life. You were talking about Goemon. Have you tried its spiritual successor, Bakaru? Finished it today and I loved it. I have not. So the Goemon games I've played and completed are the first Super Nintendo game, which came out everywhere, known as Mystical Ninja. Gamba Goemon 2, the one that plays similarly to sort of Mario World and like Castlevania 4 smashed into one. And I've played the third one, I've completed that as well, that plays a bit like The Legend of Zelda mixed with action platforming. And I've played the first one on the Nintendo 64. So there's 4 I've played. So the reason why I've not tried Bakaru is because I've still not got through every Gamba Goemon game, but I'd like to. You didn't say 6 a day, fight me. Again, I sadly didn't get to play through 6 until I was already a man. 7 was the first Final Fantasy game released in the UK, and it blew my mind when I did. I played 6 for the first time in full on a holiday in Tunisia in 2010. Now that is a rough country. Didn't like Tunisia one bit, yeah. I think there was a military coup like about a couple of months after I left, the beginning of the Arab Spring. Remember, I was there just before the Arab Spring, so lucky escape, I guess. Where are we up to? All right, I would officially join your cult of commune or whatever. Let's go, fam. Start a nice, peaceful, libertarian, socialist utopia in the middle of the UK, unironically. We don't need a libertarian, socialist utopia. We need a libertarian, socialist, capitalist utopia. You need everything. All the good ones, anyway. Like, there's certain things which are abhorrent. There are certain, I do believe there are ideologies that are completely abhorrent, I think, such as communism. Because communism is obviously where the government control everything. So, yeah, stuff like ideologies like communism, yeah, there would be no room for communism in my society. Love your channel, by the way. Thank you, Fabian. Overlord, UK isn't it a Mars colony now? UK isn't a Mars colony now? Well, am I missing a reference here? Austin, maybe I need to give MQ another try. What is the best song by Sancho? Are you going to do a Pixel remaster? This dude is more one of us than I could ever hoped. I am, of course I am. I think a lot of people will be similar to the audience they attract. You would imagine, to some degree. There's got to be some like subconscious crossover there with all of that. I love this stuff, says Leesus, but I also love games. Yeah, it's the best distraction in the world, isn't it? Let's talk Mystic Quest. Nope, not getting a Pixel remaster. I've never, ever played Mystic Quest. I've always actively avoided it. Am I wrong in doing so? Let me know, Stoner Guy. What's your favourite RPG? Final Fantasy VII. As I said earlier, I recently played through the entirety of it on the PS5, the original version, and I platinum trophied it. So I beat things like the ruby and emerald weapon for the first time ever. I'd never done that before now. And I got to go on a date with Big Black Man. I got to go on a date with Barrett. And that achievement was absolutely hilarious because the way you get to go on a date with Barrett is you basically have to act like Andrew Tate throughout the entire game. So anytime a woman speaks to you, like anytime Aerith talks to you, anytime Tifa talks to you, you just have to be really rude and abrasive and dismissive anytime they address you. So if you're sure to be rude and abrasive to Tifa and Aerith, you will get the Barrett date. And the best bit of all, which is really hilarious, I know a lot of you will know this, you go on the Barrett date, and not only is he really angry about this, he almost goes into a sort of Louis Theroux, Jimmy Savile sort of situation. So you got Barrett, you've got him sitting in there in this cable car with Cloud, and he's like, so I'm confused. You've gone on this date with me. You got Tifa and you got Aerith giving you attention. So which one's your favourite? Why aren't you basically trying to, as the young people would say, riz either of them up? And Barrett is just completely perplexed by the fact that Cloud is not making moves on either of them. So rather than accusing him of something light or poking fun at him, he accuses him of being a paedophile. He then makes the logic jump. He goes, "Oh, you must be into Marlene, you sicko." So he goes from moaning about being on this date, wondering why he's not into these beautiful women, to accusing him of being a sex offender and predator who's after his daughter. And I was mind blown that they wrote that into the game. And you basically get an achievement for abusing women throughout a playthrough. Like, that made me laugh as well. Like, yeah, mental. That is a really good point, Ricky Sauls, and it's depressing. There's hardly any new games worth diving into. Seeing the Steam Next Fest schedule, one looks cool. You're right, there isn't much around, but I've got a big recommendation for everyone watching tonight, and I've not brought it up at any point during the stream. Play Pirates of Yakuza, play Pirates of Yakuza, play Pirates of Yakuza. It's one of the best games I've ever played, and it's everything right. I don't know, I'm trying to work out how to even say this. Basically, everything that is wrong with modern gaming is how risk-averse and stagnant it is. Pirates of Yakuza is the polar opposite. It is off the wall, and you never know what you're going to get. It's absolutely ridiculous. It mixes everything up. It's got busty babes, like old school games. It's got great beat 'em up mechanics. It's got RPG elements. It's got a Grand Theft Auto 5 like world to explore. It's got pirate ship combat. It's got Disney style sing-along sections in a gangster game where they break into song. It's got full hour-long FMV, full motion video, dating sim sections buried amongst dozens of side quests. It's got Mario Kart like go-kart side quests. It's got Crazy Taxi like bicycle missions. It's got everything, this game. You've really got to play Pirate Yakuza. It's almost so good that to me it doesn't matter that they've brought out nothing else this year, because I put 35 hours into that one since it's came out, and I'll just keep playing it every night. Again, like the original Final Fantasy VII, I should platinum trophy it in the next week or two. It's a game I want to do everything in because it's that bloody good. Over here, I'm hoping we exit the country and make our own or join Finland the way things are going. Upheaval over there too, is there, Mamiya? Synthwave is nice. I thought we didn't like the Russians. I'm not with Trump on this one. Bush would have given Zelensky the keys to the armory. Yeah, that's how, what would you call it? The Republicans always were, weren't they? Like, whatever happened to the special relationship where Tony Blair and Bush were always hanging out together and, working as a team. And again, the US got attacked, didn't they? The 9/11 terrorist attacks, which triggered NATO's Article 50. And because of that, the UK stood with the United States when America was under attack, went to multiple wars with them, and thousands and thousands of UK troops lost their lives. And recently, very, very sadly, JD Vance made a statement about European countries and said something along the lines of, what good would the Europeans be if they've not served in active warfare in like 40 years? Essentially dismissing the deaths of thousands and thousands of UK troops who died in the name of freedom. Although, let's be honest, that isn't entirely true. That's what they really died for. But they did die defending the United Kingdom and the United States. So yeah, what do we say? What do we say? I can't think of the phrase. There's a phrase you say in the US, and I want to say it because it feels right. Basically, respect the troops. You say something like that as a phrase I've heard you say, and that just respect the troops. Respect all the people who have died in the name, at least, of defending our freedoms. And I thought that was very low of JD Vance to just dismiss all the lives that have been sacrificed by people from this country. You're either talking about gaming or politics. Better than talking about both. Case in point, some fighting games players withdrawing from Saudi money-powered tourneys. Yeah, I voiced my opinions on that a while ago. And yeah, I've never been fully comfortable. Well, I'm not comfortable. Again, it does feel wrong to me that an authoritarian dictatorship have been able to buy up fighting game franchises. Like, that doesn't sit right with me. And it never has. But again, there's worse problems in the world right now than worrying about that. Have you heard of the fan game Golden Axe Returns that the DMCA of Sega in 2024 around the time the new Golden Axe was announced? No, I didn't know I got a DMCA. I think I reviewed Golden Axe Returns years ago, I believe, but I didn't know I got DMCA in 2024. I played it way before that. Greetings from Brazil. I'm extremely thankful for your coverage of the gaming history. It's also really interesting mention Neo Geo's involvement in our gaming culture as well. Yes, they have had more of an impact over there, haven't they, in Brazil, I believe, than they have in most Western nations. Because I say Western because from what I know, there's a lot of people in Brazil see Brazil as part of the Western sphere. I view the Western sphere as cultures based directly off of the influence of ancient Rome and ancient Greece. And from what I know, why I wouldn't class Brazil or Mexico is, don't they have, those countries still have a lot of indigenous influence within their cultures, which isn't a bad thing. It's a great thing, in fact. But you would consider Canada and the United States Western because, again, they exist purely off the back. Their culture and political systems are evolutions of the Roman and Greek systems. So I hate hearing about politics gaming as a gateway from that talk. Oh, well, yes, I agree. People are asking me more politics stuff today than gaming. But yeah, I'd love to be more gaming. So bring me back into it. Like, I was talking about how much good Yakuza is. Has anyone else played Yakuza? The new one. Part Yakuza. I watched Yakuza games as a show on YouTube. It's great. They are so, so good. Leaves all over poppy fields. Yeah, I bought a poppy when I was in America because their poppies are great here as well. Royal Army fought in every war. I thought we weren't speaking of politics anymore. I didn't say I wasn't speaking of politics anymore. What I said, I invited people to talk about other things. I will steer the conversation. I will not dictate the conversation because I am not a dictator. BMOT Cook says Canadian Army, freedom in the Middle East. Support the troops. Support the troops. That's the one. I was looking for support the troops. Yeah. Support the troops. That is not what Vance did, bro. Come on. JD Vance wears eyeliner. Should we try? I won't look it up. So I won't because I don't want to drag too far continuing on. But I get there was some nuance to it. And I don't think he said it intentionally, but what he said did dismiss basically everyone who died from the UK during the Iraq and Afghan wars. I'm not sure if he said it intentionally, but he definitely discredited them. JT Vance wears eyeliner. He does in the memes. I don't know much about it. Just keep couches away from Vance. Never trust a straight man who wears eyeliner. Guyliner, we call it, though. It's that way. If you can find a better way to make them eyes pop, I'd like to hear it. So we've also got people who think eyeliner is great on men. Brazilian indie devs are awesome these days. Did you play that new Brazilian Street Fighter style fighter, Pocket Bravery? I have not played that one. I'll have to look into that potentially. I'm on my Castlevania runs, waiting for Kazan First Berserker. I think I'm getting Yakuza in April or May. Street Fighter 6, wish bring back Kaji and Oni. That would be cool. Potentially. Who would I like to see back before that? We've got no Street Fighter Alpha characters, really, have we? And I think that is ridiculous. Like, surely we're going to see some in the next wave. Like, we need Sakura desperately. We need Dan Hibiki desperately. Who else would we need? Not Street Fighter Alpha, but we need Vega. We need Sagat. We need Dudley. We need... There's another big Street Fighter 3. Sean. It's criminal that Sean Matsuda has not appeared as a playable character since Street Fighter 3. In my opinion. The way they was building his arc was as the next generation. So Sakura and Sean in previous games were billed as next generation fighters. So by that logic, they should be in their prime in Street Fighter 6, but neither of them are playable, which is ridiculous. In fact, it's law breaking, in fact, not having them there, because then we've got Luke. Luke is the big star, isn't it? But surely he should have been around at the same time as Sean. But yeah, let me know, guys. Jude Rayner. Juan Rayner, sorry, says, Big Man Top Hat is live. I'm a blind person who loves watching your videos. Your games that you cover are well done. And you and Steaker's videos are awesome. Oh, I love Steaker. Such a lovely gentleman. A top Portugueser. Love good old Steaker. I've got to hang out with Steaker in Portugal several times as well. I love that man. Wasn't Blair sending troops to Iraq on Bush's behalf universally unpopular in the UK? Yes, it was. The Afghan war wasn't unpopular because that was a response to what happened after 9/11. But yes, you are correct. It was universally unpopular in the UK. Many people today look at Tony Blair as a war criminal for invading Iraq. But yeah, that's another issue altogether than people dying in that war. Best super moves in fighting games. Akuma's one, whatever it's called, the murderous, whatever it is. That's a cool one, even though he doesn't ever actually murder people, which is a shame. We need Sakura and Karin back. Yeah, I like her laugh. Yeah, it's a very British way of laughing. Sagat. Yes. Ibuki, not a bad choice. Sean and Laura too. Yeah, Laura. Yeah, you gotta love Laura. Hugo, not a bad choice. After the abortion that was Street Fighter 6, our skip Street Fighter 6 is really missing all those guys. Loads of people these days are trying to claim that Street Fighter 5 is the secret best one. But I'd be curious to hear if anyone agrees with that take. Capcom doesn't want to retire Ken, which is why he went homeless. He's been great in Street Fighter 6. I really like his arc. People was worried, weren't they, at the beginning about Ken, but he's actually ended up overshadowing Ryu. Like, people thought the opposite was going to happen. Luke is kind of bland. I don't like Luke. He's a TikTok dancing twat. Typical Gen Z. Not a fan of him. Sakura should be prime adult work in Sakura Sean. Should just be after Ken trained him for his competition in 3.3. Blazing Chrome is dope. We wasn't happy after we learned we were lied to, though. I wish Capcom would do 6 characters per season pass DLC instead of the 4 because it's annoying. I would partially agree with you. And I'd also say they should be revealed differently. Don't reveal them. I guess because they want people to buy them before they actually come out, which is annoying. I prefer it if they actually revealed a new one every 3 months. Like, it's annoying having to wait an entire year to get any Street Fighter news. Like, it'd be cooler if there was more stuff going on than what we get. Like, I do feel we're not given enough. Remy in Street Fighter 6, that is a controversial pick. I think Remy is one of the most pointless characters in Street Fighter. Tell me why you like him, because I don't get the appeal. To me, he looks like he should be someone in King of Fighters, but he's not. He's in Street Fighter. So why do you like Remy? What's the best video game-based movie? People always said for a while it was The King of Kong. But these days, I like the Super Mario Bros. Movie, the new one. But there's a lot of good ones, isn't there? There's Detective Pikachu. Apparently the Sonic trilogy is really good as well. I've not got around to watching those. But yeah, those are all the big ones, aren't they? Street Fighter 5 has some great aspects. Some of the new elements spoil it. And the interface is hot garbage. Brazil is a founding member of BRICS, but it's a group in name only. We don't even have market agreements. I can't even import stuff off China without my government charging 110% import tax. Or, as they say, 110% import tariffs. That's, yeah, they say, that's what in the US, have you noticed they've been really careful with not to refer to it as import tax. It's always import tariffs instead, not import tax. But yeah, you've had a terrible time in your country of Brazil with tariffs, haven't you? Same as the Indians. India's got horrible tariffs as well. Natsu Umigatsu says, what do you think about Ken's evolution in Street Fighter 6? I think they write in perfectly with the story with his son Mel. As I said earlier, I completely agree with you. I think the way they've handled Ken in that has been better than any other character, other than maybe Jewelry. Jewelry has picked up loads of steam and popularity as well. Cammy, that's another good one, but more based on design, I would say, rather than story. She hasn't got much of a story, has she, in that game? But yeah, Cammy, Jewelry, and Ken, they're the ones that done a really great job. I think they did dreadful jobs with Ryu and Chun-Li, though. I think they just look... What have they added to those characters? I think their designs look worse than normal as well. So yeah, let me think. Do you think they ruined Ryu and Chun-Li a little bit in Street Fighter 6? Street Fighter is consistently trying to make a new hero, be bland, white, blonde, but it's a different character that ends up stealing the show. Look at Jewelry. She was the real main character in 4. Yeah, spot on. You had, what was it? Aiden? No, not Aiden. Aiden's from Street Fighter 1. What's his face? The dodgy MMA fighter. Someone give me his name. The French guy. Abel. That was it. It was Abel. He was crap. And C Viper wasn't as good as Jewelry. They tried to give C Viper a push as well. Yeah, single mummy C Viper. Remy in the game with Guy was even more impressive. Yeah, he does move like that, doesn't he? I think. How's the kids, Mr. Hat? They are very good. Thank you very much. TJ Sponge. I don't think there's a problem with Remy being French. I think there's a problem with just Remy being a crap character. Like, the French girl in Street Fighter 6 is, I think she's the best French character. The ballet dancer. I do think she's got a lot more depth. Even I think Abel's better than Remy, and I'm not a fan of Abel. China trade. I miss the days where we made fun of Capcom for being unable to count to 3. And Street Fighter 2 got so many versions, it rivaled the later Skyrim re-releases. It's true. When Street Fighter 3 came out, I didn't even notice, because by that point it was like, you're not going to get a 3, are you? They've just gone away from chronologically naming Street Fighter games. What's the best licensed game other than GoldenEye? That's a very good question. That is a very good question. I feel like I've played something absolutely amazing recently, and I can't think what it is. I'm sure I've played something amazing what was licensed. Unless I'm imagining it. And I don't know if GoldenEye is necessarily it was the best at the time. It's not the best to go back to now, is it, GoldenEye? Oh, yeah. Great point. Sammy says, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or DuckTales? Yeah, those are some of my favourites. Turtles in Time and even Shredder's Revenge. I think they're both great. But in terms of historical significance, Turtles in Time is more. Yeah, Turtles in Time. That's my favourite licensed game. Great, great call. And I think that's what I was trying to think of that I played recently was Shredder's Revenge. So well done. I'm still waiting for Waku Waku 8. That's an obscure Saturn one, isn't it? The French clone of Seth. Indeed. Life is like a hurricane, Sammy. It is indeed. Has anyone ever heard, I think it's Hindi, so the Indian version of DuckTales. The theme in Indian sounds hilarious. It's great. If any of you ever want to laugh, listen to the Indian version of the DuckTales theme. It's just got such a fun twang to it. Dan is not in Street Fighter 6. Juan. Oh, sorry, is that Juan? How'd you say it? Juan, isn't it? Is it Juan? Juan Reyna? Is that how you pronounce it? Juan Reyna, I think. Juan Reyna, yes. Dan is in. He's in scenes, but he's not playable yet. I'm in a steady relationship with Cammy. A friend of mine keeps pushing jewelry at me. Why did you prefer Cammy over jewelry? Claw of the Fallen. They did Violent Ken. Is that a nod to Ruben Key? Kudos if it is. Is that was Ruben Key? Are we to refer Ruben? Are you talking about the voice actor Ruben, like who voiced Ken in the earlier games? I think Violent Ken goes all the way back to the Alpha movie. Was the first time we had a Violent Ken, but I think it was Brainwashed Ken in that version. And you had Violent Ken playable for the first time all the way back in 2004 in Capcom versus SNK SVC Chaos, and then he was in the actual official Street Fighter game in Ultra Street Fighter 2, which I think was 2016. I think that's my Violent Ken timeline right. It's meant to be a Street Fighter historian. Hope I got that right. I was close enough. South Park: The Fractured Butthole. I've heard very good things about that. I played the first one, The Stick of Truth, but I've been told The Fractured Butthole is a lot better, but I've not got around to playing it. I like the Sonic movies. I mean, Jim Carrey's have returned, baby. Aliens for the C64 was amazing for a licensed game. RoboCop Rogue City. No love for Alien Isolation. I'm not a big horror lover generally. Hudson's back, but I don't know if they've got their IPs back from Konami. Bill Nye's Chinese film is a beer hug chugging theme. Beer. Is that Bill Nye the Science Guy? Okay, Ruben Key was a big guy on the old player modding scene. Got you. There was a voice, the voice actor who played Kenny Street Fighter 5 was Ruben someone. I think that's what's confused me. Juan is pronounced like want. Thank you, Sammy. Street Fighter, Alpha movie, but in the fan game, it's a nod to the famous Mugen character, Evil Ken, who was one of the best characters I've ever played. He died tragically in a boating accident. His original character, Evil Ken, was held up as a monument for him by the community. New story to me. It's pronounced, how did you say that? John! Did I say it right? Claw of the Fallen. Cammy is a crush of mine since I was young. When she debuted in Super, I got a friend who's really into crazy girls, and I really like Jewelry's character design in Street Fighter 4 and 6. This friend of mine really wants me to draw Jewelry. And I've got to go. Fun stream, Mr. Top Hat. Why you don't participate in Street Fighter tournaments and win millions of dollars? That's a great question, Santiago, and I can answer that question. I'm shit. It's as simple as that. As I said earlier in the stream, a lot of signs indicate to me having potential ADHD, and my attention deficit and focus isn't there to play fighting games competitively. I love playing them for a laugh, and I adore learning about the history and the lore behind them, but playing them at a competitive level, it's just simply something I don't think I would be capable of. It's as simple as that. Have you ever played Firefly Wrestling World? I have not, Claw of the Fallen. I am a big fan of WWF No Mercy. I'm sure pretty much most of you could be. Thank you for the Mortal Kombat Turbo content. That was iconic. Good way of describing it. Mortal Kombat Nitro, indeed. I've got another Lost Mortal Kombat video coming up this Thursday on another Lost Mortal Kombat game, so I hope you enjoy that one. Have you done any wrestling recently? Says TG Sponge. I last wrestled in December, I believe, in a scramble match, a 6-man scramble, 7-man scramble, 8-man scramble. It was chaotic. It was crazy. Not since December. I'm definitely having a bit of a break at the moment. As Shawn Michaels would say, I've lost my smile a little bit. I've just got no desire to step into the ring. I believe the Golden Axe game you covered was Golden Axe Myth. Yes, you are correct. That's terrible that you know more about my content than I do. Golden Axe Returns is a game made by Z Vitor. I'm fairly sure you did not do a video on Golden Axe Returns. I did not. You're correct. It was Golden Axe Myth. Liam Hughes says, I'm off. I'll see you all next time. Lady Decode will do a stream next. So yeah, yes, she will do a stream. And speaking of that, you have reminded me, Liam Hughes, I was supposed to check over the latest Lady Decade video tonight and ensure it was up for her, and she is long asleep. And I've got to do a voiceover for my next video as well this evening, and it's already 22:11 at night. So what we'll say is thank you so much for joining me, everyone, and I'm going to have to end this stream as quickly as possible so my viewer retention doesn't go down, and therefore YouTube punish me for that. So thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you all again soon. Love you very much.